Okay, good evening, everyone. It's Josh here with another episode of Horror Hangouts here on the Big Slick Adventures YouTube channel. And I have a special little episode for us tonight. Back in January, I decided to join Substack, and where I could help promote my books and just do a lot of writing, a lot of just movie reviews and whatnot, just discussing horror. Along the way, I've met quite a few other horror enthusiasts out there, so I thought it'd be a lot of fun to. Okay, and I just see one of our other guests is running a little bit behind, but that's fine. Um, but anyhow, along the way, I've met some horror enthusiasts and decided to have a Substack, um, kind of like a Substack panel. So we'll all kind of discuss our journeys through horror and what prompted us to start Substack in the first place. So we have, let's see here, to my left, right next to me, is Kimberly Ramsawak, who has the Horror Concierge Substack page. Right below me is Carrie King. Uh, I thought it was Carrie Schaeffer. I can't remember which.
Oh,
Anyhow, we have Carrie here.
No,
We have
go
Carrie. She
ahead.
also has her own her own YouTube channel called Honestly, Dear Listener, which is quite the interesting thing. She co-hosts that. And then also with us here we have Kyle Horrorble Rider. He's not horrible. He's actually pretty funny. But so how's everyone doing tonight?
Awesome. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, this is a treat.
Great. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And we might have another person joining us in soon. So, but until then, so we're just going to go around the corner. I'll start with you, Kimberly. I guess first question is what got you interested in the horror genre in the first place?
Sure. I mean, I have been a watcher of horror since I was 6 and a reader of horror as long as I can remember in my preteens. And it basically stems from just horror has always been a family tradition of mine. I remember every Friday night, starting as long as I can remember since I was 6. My father and I would go to West Coast Video, and I'm aging myself, but yes, West Coast Video. And I would pick out a horror movie, and he would pick out one and would come home. And my mom and my sister and I would watch a horror movie every Friday night. And he was the one that single-handedly introduced me to the horror genre, which me and my sister love to this day. So I can remember the very first horror movie I saw was a double feature. We got Michael Jackson's Thriller and we got The Exorcist. And ever since I saw The Exorcist, I was, yes, of course I was scared, but it was just something that was just so fascinating to me. And it just stuck ever since.
I have a question, Kim.
Excellent.
Did you?
And what made you want to go ahead, Kyle? That's fine.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I was just gonna ask. So were you 6 when you saw The Exorcist?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
I
Okay.
was.
Very
Yep.
brave.
Yeah.
6.
And yeah,
Gosh.
I know. I know. And I can remember my mom saying, like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? And my dad's like, I just don't want them to ever be afraid of anything. You know, I'm going to teach my girls how to be fearless. And that was how it started for me.
Wow. That's amazing.
Excellent. And of course, we now just joining us too. He has the Macabre Tavern Substack page and YouTube channel, Yanni Hamburger. How you doing, Yanni?
Hello.
Hey, Yanni.
Hi, everybody.
Lenny.
Hey.
We were just going around the circle here. One thing I wanted to ask Kimberly too is what made you want to start your Substack page?
Sure. Well, I started Substack in January of this year, so fairly still new. Hasn't been a year yet since I've been on it. And I started it as just a way for me to do something for myself. You know, I was stuck in the corporate grind, bored, and just, you know, I love to write. The majority of my career, I've been a writer in the corporate space. And I just wanted to write about something that I knew and loved and just someone told me about Substack. A person I was following, she was on Substack and told me to get on Substack. It's a place for writers to be, and I just started saying, "Let me just figure it out and start writing about what I love, which is horror. You know, what I hate about it, what I love about it, what annoys me about it." And it started out as just about me recommending movies and books that I've seen throughout the years and read throughout the years, and it sort of morphed into really teaching women's empowerment and reinvention through the lens of horror, which has always been my passion. I've always been really passionate about women's empowerment. I am a certified women's coach in my former career, and I'm just really, really passionate about how horror movies, and especially The Final Girl, is a really good depiction of a feminist, and really showing showing how women can really reinvent themselves and the strength that we have, and it's just a perfect picture of how women needs to grow and reinvent themselves.
Absolutely, because I can, it seems like horror for me seemed to be, at least when I was growing up, and I'm going to be really aging myself. Prior to really before The Final Girl really took off in horror, the only female heroes I could think in pop culture off the top of my head would have been Princess Leia from Star Wars and Linda Carter from Wonder Woman from that old 70s TV series. So, yes, I'm definitely aging myself. But with horror, it's almost a common thing. And what's best about it for really any protagonist in horror is these aren't people with superpowers. They're not billionaires with all kinds of gadgets. They're just regular people like you and I. And I think that's what I think in heart kind of makes horror the most one of the more relatable genres that you can get yourself into.
For sure, for sure. Usually when the horror first came out, you know, you always have that depiction of the helpless girl that's tripping and falling and scantily clad. But I think throughout the years, horror has really grown to really show women, you know, overcome the arc of, you know, going through adversity and not only defeating the villain, whether the villain is a man, a ghost, a haunted house, or whatever you have, but really sort of you could see how that woman's character, how they're bringing out the strength they didn't know they had through the majority of the movie, and towards the end of the arc, they're really coming out and defeating their inner demons first before they could defeat that outer demon, whatever that outer demon is in that particular movie. So, I mean, whether it's Ripley in Alien or Laurie in Halloween, I mean, Halloween is the perfect example because, I mean, it's her entire life, over 20 years. You can see I think she started when she was 17, all the way to her 60s in that final frame when she's fighting Michael Myers in the kitchen, you know, and she's like, I had to fight you all of my life. I mean, she throws the refrigerator down on him. I mean, you could really see in the character's eyes that, you know, she had to overcome a lot of adversity and fear that she's held in her entire life. And in that snap of that one moment, she's like, I'm done. I'm done. And, you know, she throws the refrigerator on him. So and that's just one example of one movie where you could really see and draw strength from, you know, she can do that. I could do whatever, you know, handle whatever I'm dealing with in my life as well.
I love that. I love that, Kimberly.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah. Yeah. I really loved it too. Well, going back to like H2O, that scene where they kind of come face to face, only it's like through the door. But then when she's outside yelling, you know, it's got the axe in hand, yelling Michael, that was like, to me, that was like the best version of Laurie Strode throughout this series.
Oh, for
Because this is
sure.
where Laurie really fights back. And yeah, definitely. As far as I'm concerned, Resurrection doesn't exist in my life. So in that timeline, it ends with H2O. So because I don't even want to think about Resurrection, what they did to that character. But anyhow,
Yeah.
It's maybe the worst sequel of all time. So it's pretty terrible.
Yeah. It's
yeah, it
still so
might
bad that it's
be.
good.
Well, I always said this, not to get off subject, but what I would have liked to seen them do with Halloween Ends, just because why not, is if they just had a Halloween multiverse movie where you just brought all the timelines together, Maybe you introduce Doctor Strange. He does something and brings them all together. You have 4 or 5 Michaels running around with about 3 or 4 different Lauries, couple different Loomises, so forth. Daniel Harris would be basically playing 2 different characters. Um, and it ends with Michael winning, or the Michaels winning. They go into a bar, they sit down at the table. Sitting up at the bar is Tom Atkins' character from Halloween 3. And then that annoying Halloween 3 jingles comes up. All the Michaels, their faces melt, and then Busta Rhymes walks in, stares at the
Um,
camera, breaks the 5th wall, and goes, "Trick or treat, motherfucker," and credit.
Josh, you've really thought about this. I'm impressed.
I did. I've thought about this for 3 years since Halloween ends, but
Yep.
Buster Rhymes. I cannot.
anyhow. So, on to you, Kyle. Where did your love of horror start?
Well, so pretty similar to Kimberly's. I was born in '83, so as I was getting to the age of 4 or 5 years old, my parents introduced me to the Universal monsters. So they grew up in the 50s and 60s, and so they were both huge film fans, especially horror. My mom also especially was a huge reader, so that was very prominent in my house. And so by the time the late '80s hit, I had the cliche '80s parents, early '90s parents that were very laissez-faire about what we watched. And even if there were some things that we weren't supposed to watch, if we snuck out and hid behind the couch in the living room, my parents found that pretty funny and would ultimately let us watch whatever that was. So that could ultimately be something pretty innocent like The Mummy or The Wolfman, or it could be something like Sleepaway Camp or The Exorcist or films like that. So yeah, I got a horror education pretty early, but the more adult horror films that I saw off and on as a kid, it was really more bits and pieces. The Friday the 13th, the Halloween franchise, things like that, was really like a collective of pieces of memories that weren't a complete film. I usually wasn't watching those in completion, or I couldn't remember them. So those were ones that I really tackled and dove into as I got into like middle school, high school, and beyond. The ones that really stuck with me and that got me into horror and was really gateway horror for me probably started with Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein and The Wolfman and some of those series. So that was passed on to me, which led to renting Beetlejuice and Pee-wee's Big Adventure and certain kind of proto-horror films that aren't necessarily horror but has aspects in it that just really got me excited and further interested in the genre. And then I discovered a movie called The Monster Squad, which incorporated the Universal monsters, but in a way that blended that obviously with the Amblin Spielbergian kids on an adventure narrative. And it was kind of the perfect movie for me in the early 90s. And I remember renting it from the video store. Ours was called Cinema to Go. I grew up in a really small town called Glasgow. And so before I started school, when we would drop my older sister off, my dad would always take us to the cinema or to the video store, to rent movies. And so I rented that a lot and still love that movie to this day. I've got to meet a lot of the actors that are in it, the director, things like that. So, but that was a huge one for me. And then from reading, my dad worked in a magazine printing company, or worked for a magazine printing company. And so he was able to bring home, they also printed books as well. So he would bring home like Sherlock Holmes and Edgar Allan Poe, these complete works, the complete works of H.P. Lovecraft. So I typically was an accelerated reader throughout my elementary school. And even things that helped me, like tackling books that I probably shouldn't have been reading, like diving into Stephen King in 5th and 6th grade, on top of kind of coming away from Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, the Goosebumps series, those type of quintessential 80s and 90s books that we probably all grew up on. So, and then once diving into King with like Cycle of the Werewolf, I also read It. And to my point, reading books that were a little over my head at the time helped me become a better reader, but then also helped me kind of learn about, real life in the world of adults and things like that. So I remember being very confused. The scene, the bonding scene in It, where they all, the Losers Club bond together, which, I have mixed feelings about that as an adult, but it was a very strange passage to read when you're a kid. So I had some questions about that. I didn't fully understand it. But then coming back and reading it later, it obviously made more sense. So, but have been a lifelong King and horror book fan as well. So, and that just led to, adulthood. And I've kind of been a film scholar. I love film in general, but horror especially is my favorite. I think that is the genre that you can mine the most subtext and symbolism and stories that mirror reality in a more effective way than our biopics and our dramas about reality. I've always said there could be a specific topic or event that they're making a play-by-play based on true events drama about, which, yes, that may be interesting, but give me the horror movie that adds maybe a metaphor or specific subtext that deals with what the realities are of that drama, but frames it in a way that is more emotionally impactful. So I just don't think it gets any better than the horror genre when it comes to that. The closest is maybe science fiction. So, but yeah, that's and the one cool thing that I've loved as a dad is being able to pass that on. My wife's not a horror fan at all. She likes The Shining, and that's about as far as she goes, which is actually a pretty good one if you're going to like one. But
Yeah.
I've been able to pass on to my daughters love of horror.
Nice.
I waited till they were a little bit older, so I didn't quite go as easy on them as my parents did. But they've grown into film fans in general, but especially horror. And this time of year, we're having a blast watching as many movies as we can. So.
That's awesome, especially the part. I mean, you're right, dead on about how horror is probably, with the exception of sci-fi, which the two often blend together anyway, seems to be about the most effective genre for conveying some sort of, I guess, commentary on whatever world event or any type of issues. It's all because it's normally done very subtle, but subtle enough to where once you figure it out, like, oh wow, that's what they were saying about this. And granted, 10 different people can watch the same movie and come away with 10 different opinions on what the movie was trying to say. I mean, Carpenter's famously said, well, Halloween's not really about anything. I was just trying to write a simple slasher film. But we all have, you could come up with 4 or 5 different things that movie could be about. And yeah, I'm the same way. I mean, my wife does like horror, not as much as I do. And I've certainly kind of passed it on to my son and daughter, more so my son. I remember me and him taking him to his first horror con a couple years ago. And my daughter kind of is into it a little bit. She likes reading horror a little bit more than the movies, but which is fine. Either way is fine. It was fun. I had her watching, I don't know if any of you have seen Stream yet. Slasher film that came out last year. Daughter's watching it with me, and she goes, "Oh, she got killed, didn't she? She dead." And of course, later on, she comes back at the end and goes, "You said she died." I just wanted to kid you. That's all. But yeah, that's always fun, passing it down to the kids. So Kyle, what made you want to start your Substack page?
Well, so I started out. I came on to Substack almost a year ago. And I came on as a reader at first. There were some certain film critics that had ventured to Substack that I had found out. I wasn't even really familiar with Substack until following a few film critics that are just more generalized film critics. And then also there is a film critic that is not on Substack that is maybe one of my 2 or 3 favorites called The Outlaw Vern. And it has his own website that, no one has ever read his work. Mm-hmm. He's excellent. He's been doing it since the 90s. Highly recommend him. But there's you are maybe familiar with the writer Decarceration. that writes about films, and also time he spent 8 or 9 years in incarcerated in federal penitentiary.
Oh, wow.
And so he writes a combination of movie reviews, but then also loosely or very specifically can tie that in with certain issues within the penal system that he's trying to expose and add his thoughts to. So I actually came to read his Substack, and then also a few others. And so really at first I was only exposed to film criticism within the platform. And then as time went on, I started to expand, learn more about it, became the literary side, and just really started digging in and reading a more eclectic mix of writers on Substack. And so it wasn't long. I've written myself just privately for fun as a hobbyist since I was a kid. And I had always had an urge to write movie reviews. And so one thing that I noticed is that there's a lot of film critics and film essayists that write on a pretty broad spectrum. A lot are brand new movies that are coming out, which I think is fantastic. I love reading those. But I didn't feel like there's probably a lot that I could bring to the table in that area. And sometimes, full-time job, kids, all that, it's hard to stay on top of current movies. Also, sometimes really current cinema, sometimes I get down on anyway, and I tend to revert back to the earlier decades to kind of dig into things that I haven't seen yet. So so with that, I noticed there was horror being written as well, but again, a lot of times, just critics in general, I think it's easy for us to focus on The Exorcist and the Texas Chainsaw Massacres and the Halloweens. We love those movies. There's a lot to dissect. There's a lot to discuss. And on some of those, they've been written on so much better than people that there's really, in a lot of ways, probably not a lot that I could touch on personally. But there is that subgenre of horror movies within horror. Specifically for me, my interest is in the 80s and 90s specifically, where maybe certain sequels, certain movies that are unloved, underappreciated, kind of these misfit toy films that are probably highly flawed, but also have a lot of interesting aspects about them that could be excavated and discussed, whether it's something like Brandon Ray just recently spoke on this, but like the film Spookies, or I've written on the 976 Evil series, things like that, where not that well known outside of true horror fans. And they're really hard to find reviews on movies like that. And if you do, they're usually pretty basic Letterboxd, Reddit, quick synopsis. I like it, I don't like it, but there's really no true criticism or anything that pulls out whether if you like it or not, what are things about it that you can further expound on. So with that, it gives me the ability to do something a little different where we can focus on films that I feel like matter, that if I can write about sometimes movies considered ugly, but in a way that maybe would draw people in that normally wouldn't think about seeing it if they've ever even heard of it. So, and just to my enthusiasm for those type of movies, just to try to connect with readers I try to write to the hardcore horror fans that maybe have seen it, love it, hate it. We can talk about it, but also try to reach out to somebody who's not a horror fan, maybe very casual about it, or maybe not even a huge film person at all. So, and maybe they can. I've had a couple people that have at least said that they've read a review and went and checked it out. They either hadn't heard of it or it was never on their radar of anything that they thought they wanted to see. So whether they liked it or not, I'm not sure, but that's what's exciting to me. On top of I just love talking about it, and there's just you can always pull something academically out of movies that are, considered schlock and B-grade cult films and things like that. To me, that's pretty exciting. I made the joke last year that you've already read the 25 different Anora and Wicked criticism or essays. Try the Warlock series or whatever. Let's try something different there. So that's really what I try to focus on. But then also over time, I was trying to crank those out once a week, and with life that can get really tough. But also outside of horror, I enjoy writing poetry and short stories and different things too. So I've kind of expanded out, which has helped me grow an audience, I feel like, and it's kind of cross-pollinated as well, which I think is again just helped me grow subscribers and followers, and even if neither, possibly somebody who's coming along and actually reading my posts too. So it's been an awesome experience so far. Like I said, I'm coming up on a year, and I really didn't start actually writing and posting until January of this year. So really only less than 9 months in, and having a blast. And it could always change and can kind of put focus in different places. The toughest part is balancing everything, because sometimes I have a tendency to I'll get caught up focusing in one, and I may let my movie essays actually go to the wayside. So I try to corral everything back in, but sometimes my brain, if it's on fire for one certain thing, I have to get those things out before I can move back to. For an example, my next essay is on American Werewolf in Paris, which, believe it or not, is a really tough one. I'm having a really hard time. I've finally come up with an angle that I feel like is worthy of even writing about it, that doesn't just absolutely destroy it. I said earlier that Halloween Resurrection was the worst sequel maybe of all time. American Werewolf in Paris gives it a run for its money. It is. I hadn't seen it. I had not seen it since I was 8th grade when it came out in the theaters.
It's so good.
Are you a fan?
Yes, I am.
Well, okay. So that is the angle at which I want to tackle that movie when I write about it. Is that I didn't realize that there's a cult fan base of 90s kids that love that movie. And so I want to write about the positives from that angle, and how, for me, if that had been made in the 80s and they had used practical effects and maybe done some different, had filmed it in a way that wasn't more of a saturated cinematography and art direction that you saw in a lot of the late 90s films, I think it could have worked better for me. But I will say that even though I did struggle with it, there are certain things about it that are charming just from pure 90s nostalgia. I've been able to dig up some inspiration. And may I ask, what are a couple of things that you love about it? Because I need some more inspiration if I can get it. So
I love the subway scene. The subway scene is awesome. Where I don't want to give too much away for those who haven't seen it, but you get injected and things happen, and the scene where the subway scene is just awesome.
I will say that is one of the better ones. Yes. Better scenes, I think, for sure.
Yeah. But it's
I always love it when you find that fan.
Yeah.
I always love it when you find that fan who likes something that everyone else hates. It makes me want to hear why even more. Like, I know a few people who actually really enjoy the Nightmare on Elm Street remake, and most people hate that one. And I'm always curious to hear their thoughts on it. And I recently revisited it and goes, you know what? I don't think it's as bad as people say it is, but
yeah.
Right.
When you hear someone articulate their love for something that you don't like or you don't get, I will go back and watch it with their thoughts in mind and look at it from a different perspective, and we'll mine things from it. And I'm like, oh, okay, I actually see what they're referring to here, and I actually probably will end up liking it more. So
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. Well, Carrie, let's hear how you got started into horror.
Oh man. Well, I was raised fundamentalist evangelical Christian. So I had none of this growing up whatsoever. In fact, I mean, to an extreme, I was not allowed to watch the Smurfs. I wasn't allowed to watch Captain Planet. Lots of different things, because anything that had any kind of whiff of a magical element that could be seen as demonic or dark was out of the picture for me. So I got none of that growing up. And but I think when you tell a child, don't do that, what do you think's going to happen? So I actually think that it contributed to, I was always very curious about it, and wanted to know. And so my parents were very, very strict about TV shows and movies. What they were not so strict about were books, because I felt like it was okay, because they never specifically said, don't read X, Y, and Z. They did say, do not read Stephen King. So I did not touch Stephen King until I was an adult, which is really sad now. I'm like, oh, so much lost time. But I did get my hands on, I think I was in 6th or 7th grade. I got my hands on Silence of the Lambs. And it opened up this whole thing for me. I felt things that I'd never felt before when I read books. And books are, I mean, I was a lit major in college, that I write now my own fiction and nonfiction. And so I agree when y'all talk about, like, horror does things to the human psyche, I think, and communicates in a way using our own fear against us in ways that other genres just, well, they can't do. And so that's kind of how I got my start, was, and then of course I started deconstructing from my religion. Oh, I don't know, probably I started 18 as quickly as I could. And now so much of my writing in the horror genre has to do, with the scariest horror genre, which in my opinion is organized high control religion, because it's not happening to you on the outside, although it is that as well. It's not only happening to you on the outside, it's happening from the inside out. So it's actually in your body, it's in the organism, and it is organized religion. And I'm specifically talking high control religion, right? Like fundamentalist religion has a way of building your way of thinking about other people, life in general. It builds structures in your brain that then you have to unlearn when you get out of that, and that is frightening. So a lot of the things that I deal with in my writing are religion, fundamentalist religion, how it affects you, and I use a lot of metaphor to describe the actual effect of erasure of the self. You don't have a self when you're in high control organized religion. That's frightening. I don't know of anything as frightening as you not having the thing that is the closest to you being your identity. And so, yes. Okay. So Silence of the Lambs for me was massive. And then I actually got clearance, because I don't think my mom knew what it was well enough, but I got clearance to watch when I was in middle school, Edward Scissorhands, who's on my shirt, which I know is not like, right. But it's dark. enough, and it's horror adjacent, I would say. It's like brushing up against horror. And that absolutely, that was it. That changed my life forever. I said, I need more of this like weird dark element. I thought I wanted to write like creepy children's books for a while. So Coraline was a massive deal for me. And yeah, so I was the kid who went to the video store and walked down, because remember the VHS tapes? I was born in 84, and I'm 41 now. So and y'all probably remember when you'd go down the horror aisle and they had the VHS tapes in the little plastic
Covers.
in the covers.
Mhm.
And I would look at every single one of those. I mean, like memorize. I knew exactly what every single cover looked like.
Yep.
I had to memorize, but I had no idea what was in them, because there's no way in hell I would be allowed to watch them. So now as an adult, I'm playing catch up, like Kimberly, you got the education early. Kyle, you got the education early. I'm playing catch up now, going back and looking at all these covers and being like, yes, I remember exactly that. Now I get to experience it, which is kind of, it's magic. So I love A24 movies. Those are probably my favorite. Like my favorite movies are Midsommar. I know, Josh, we've talked about that movie.
Yes, we did.
I know your thoughts and feelings.
Well, and that's great because we both came at it from two different perspectives, and a lot of our perspectives are built on our past life experiences. Now, I kind of grew up maybe not quite as strict as you did, and maybe that's where some of my cynicism comes from. But no, I mean, what you've said was a little bit of a different perspective on it than I had heard before, so I appreciated that for sure.
Absolutely, and likewise. But yeah, I think the horror genre, for me anyway, it is the horror is inside of me, right? I've been colonized with this thing that has erased the self, or has done its best to. And so for me, horror is about, especially when I'm writing it, inviting the nightmare inside, or letting it sit down, giving it a spot, asking it questions, saying, okay, I'm listening now that I'm old enough to listen. I'm listening now. What do you want to tell me? Which I don't think no other genre does that. So that's why it's in part why it's special.
And with your Substack page, and the same thing's true with your YouTube video, isn't necessarily horror related.
Right.
I just know you're a really horror fan. But just explain to us what got you started with the Substack page, and then if you want to talk about your YouTube channel, go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. I started in May of 2024, and I'd had a blog, and we did all of that, but then blogs have kind of fallen off, and I wanted a space that was more writerly and kinder than social media, like traditional social media. And to me, I was delighted to find that Substack was that, and still is that, and I hope it continues to be that. And I think it's a kinder place because readers and writers tend to be more conscientious about what they're putting out in the world, hopefully, and they think about things. And so so I wanted to be a part of that conversation. I have things inside of me that I'm still I don't think you ever stop deconstructing. Not if you've been so thoroughly taken over. And so I wanted a place that I could do that. So my Substack really is, it's called Remembering, not like, oh, I forgot, now I remembered, although kind of. It's I have felt dismembered. And I feel like I'm searching out in the world for the parts of me and putting it back together. So my subtitle of my Substack is What Haunts and What Heals. I'm interested in both of those things. I'm interested in understanding the haunting and understanding the grief and asking more questions about that. Also, I'm interested in what heals us. And a lot of times what heals us is facing those things head on, facing our monsters or our nightmares and not running from them anymore. And so I also have, as you were saying, Josh, a podcast that then goes to a YouTube channel. And my best friend and I from middle school are talking about that. She was raised fundamentalist and she was a pastor's kid. She was raised exactly like I was. And we've both deconstructed. She's a singer and songwriter in New York, and I'm a writer here in Nashville. And so we talk about what it means to create things now, having all of that programming in there before. And so we talk about the things that continue to haunt us, and we talk about the things that we are using to heal ourselves.
Excellent. Well, I'm sure glad you did come to Substack to share those events. I do enjoy reading some of yours, especially all right, forgive me if I'm butchering, but it's like 50,000 Words of Failure or something along those lines. What's the title of that series you've been writing?
How to Feel Like a Failure in 50,000 Words or Less. It's a 4-part it's a 4-part series about, I recently was diagnosed with ADHD and have been trying so hard to write a book and feeling like, coming up against, I can't do this. Why can't I focus? So I wrote a 4-part series on my experiences through all of that.
Excellent. Well, it's glad to, I think all of us here probably have found that horror has been a way of healing what haunts us, so to speak. And that's actually pretty clever the way you titled that. So in one way or another, because we find ourselves, I think we use the protagonist of these stories as almost a reflection of ourselves.
Absolutely.
Because basically the monsters in these movies, or the killers, are basically metaphors for whatever does haunt us, and it's about facing those fears. And it can be whatever it might be. It can be oppression, it can be just our own depression, our anxieties, ADHD. It could be the world around us, whether it's war, famine, what have you. We can always use that. And yeah, you're right. As we've been saying, it seems like horror seems to be one of the best genres, whether it's reading or watching movies. I bet your parents would really love watching Silence of the Lambs, the movie. Probably not, especially the Buffalo Bill in front of the mirror scene. But
oh, absolutely not. No, my mom won't watch like Lord of the Rings or any. It's too dark for her. And so so there's no way. And now it's kind of tough now because my mom is so excited that I'm writing. And I said, Mama, you're not going to write what I like. And she said, I don't have to like it, just do it. So at least there's that.
Yeah. At least she's encouraging for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. And finally, last but not least, the host of the Macabre Tavern YouTube channel, which I was a guest on last month, Yanni Hamburger. How are you doing, Yanni?
Oh, we're good. We're good.
So what got you started into the horror genre?
Well, it's interesting because that's literally how I learned how to read. And my mom started me very young. Like, she would read Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit to me when I was just a little baby. And she was a hard nerd. I shouldn't say was. She's, she still is. She's still with us. But no, she had Dean Koontz. She had Stephen King. And I was just one of those kids, you start early when you start reading, and 3-4 years old, picking up those books because those were the only books we had in the house. And when she's ready to teach me how to read, that's what she did. I mean, I can, good Lord, how many books I had to fully read. Of course, all of us being kids of the 80s and 90s, most of us know the other incentive for us to read was pizza.
Nowadays,
Yes.
Pizza Hut's gone so downhill, I don't think that'll work anymore.
No.
I love that you just referenced Book It.
Yes. Oh gosh, I'm not kidding you. There was one Pizza Hut around here that actually
Yep.
banned me because I
You had the little coupons
had
to go to
too many
Pizza
of those
Hut. Yep.
coupons.
Yep. The reading coupons. Absolutely.
Do you remember
Yep.
the buttons?
Yes.
Yep.
that you'd
Oh, I
stick
used to
the little
wear
star
mine
stickers on?
Yeah.
Oh,
all
yeah.
the time. Oh, God, I was in all those programs that y'all
Yes.
mentioned, like Book It and Accelerated Reader. So much free stuff coming out of Accelerated Reader, and I was one of those kids that would like push you out of the way so I can get to the Goosebumps books at the Scholastic Book Fair. Uh,
Yep.
but no, it literally is just about every aspect of my life, because even when I was a little kid, first horror movie I ever sat completely through was the original Night of the Living Dead, because I was a latchkey kid, single mom. Dad wasn't around much. That was more of my choice than his. But I'd come home after school, and after I finished my homework, we turn on a UHF channel at the time. Ironically, I work in that station now. But Night of the Living Dead, we used to come on all the time. All the old black and white Universal movies. Grew up on that. Monster Squad, Goonies, everything an 80s horror kid could possibly get their hands on. That was me. And because I was bullied a lot as a kid, I spent a lot of time in the libraries trying to get away from people. And obviously my love of reading came there. And then when I got into middle school, that's when my love of history and my love of horror intersected.
Oh,
And I got into more of real life horror history, which I'm trying to make into a series now. But and then it would just grow from there, and I loved it. When I got into high school, that's when I got into I wanted to look up more the taboo things in life, cannibalism and even, I don't like using the C word, but cults. Let's just call it what it is. Then I got older, and here we are.
And what made you start the Substack page?
Well, I started a podcast with a friend of mine. This was 2016. We had met through blogging. We used to be over at some of the old blogging sites, even some of the old Yahoo stuff. And we met, and we were big horror fans, and we started a podcast. And unfortunately, her parents got into bad health, so she's taking care of her parents right now. And I missed it. I started the YouTube channel first. Technically, was trying to go into video game streaming at the time, and then I met up with a bunch of friends. We did that ultra toxic ass RP role playing on freaking Twitter. Back when back when Twitter was not as awful as it is today, but it was still, that community was extremely toxic. And met a few friends from there and decided, hey, look, I miss writing my stories. I miss writing a whole bunch of stuff. And I really wanted to start expanding, not just into video essays, but, writing as well. I wanted to take my passion back. And so I got sober and started writing again. And I've been on this thing for 3 years, but I started taking it seriously in March. So that's kind of where I've been. I've thrown things against the wall on the site where, trying to be serious, but then at the same time, I want to write fiction. And that's where it came from.
Nice.
it's awesome.
Awesome. And what? And you haven't. Your YouTube channel is fairly new, isn't it? Or how long have you done that?
On and off since 2017. Work and sobriety have kind of messed me up a little bit. But that's another thing. I've just been throwing things against the wall trying to make them stick. But 2017 is when it officially started. I've graduated now from just video games to trying different styles. I used to do a throwback. We used to do what I call Monochrome Monday, where I would go back and review all the black and white horror films back in the day. That's a thing I'd like to bring back, but now it's more, I want to be more serious about video essays. That's why I started Midnight Circuit. The Midnight Circuit was because I missed my old podcast and I loved interviewing people. That's what we used to do. We used to treat it because we both were in radio. I'm still in radio, but that's where she got her start from. And that's technically where the name of the podcast came from too, is she had a radio show on a NPR station called Early Morning Zombie Time. And her being out in Arizona and near LA, she got to interview a lot of big, horror people. And we brought that over. And that's where, like I said, that's where the Midnight Circuit came from. I've also gotten back into my love of history and historical horror. That's where Dangerous Tides came from, because we do shipwrecks and really deep dive them. There was a movie, and the reason why I love video essays is one of my favorite movies is Cropsey. And it is, I think it's one of the greatest, maybe the greatest documentary ever made. And I was so inspired by that movie. And then another part of the inspiration was I was on a live stream with a YouTuber called Nightmind. And I think maybe a lot of us are very familiar with him. He's one of the bigger names in YouTube horror. And he said it right. Somebody had actually asked him, hey, how do you get started? He goes, listen, you got a cell phone. There's all this free software. You don't have really any excuse if you're going to sit there and pretend that you want to do it. Go learn the stuff. Go learn the software. Again, everything I work on is free. I don't pay 1 cent for any of my editing software, any photo or video. And so that's kind of how I got really, really serious into YouTube and now trying to make it a full-time thing.
Cool.
Excellent. Cool. Yeah. And you had, I was on there. So yeah, it was a great time there we had. I guess one thing, well, I'll ask all of you guys this. And you can start, Kimberly, on this one. What do you like the most about Substack, and what do you think what could it improve upon? I'm just curious to hear everyone's answers on this.
What I like most about Substack is it's a place for writers, period. Like, you could just write whatever you want to write, whatever's on your heart, and the community and the people who tune into you and comment, and it's just such a communal, it's almost like everyone is at the desk at the library and we're all just talking. And like, I think when Starbucks first came out, they had and I don't think it's that way anymore, but it was just very like, have a cup of coffee and just talk. And I have that cozy feeling when I'm on Substack, that, like you pull out your old school newspaper and you sit back and you're just reading and just enjoying everyone's perspective, especially in the horror Substack niche, that everyone has such a unique angle, unique take on horror, and it's just everyone is so interesting in their individual niche, which I absolutely love. And the people I've met just through Substack, reading each other's work is just phenomenal. And just coming in as a brand new writer in the space and just being able to express my ideas and how I feel about horror, and the people that have supported me and just become like Substack, friends within the Substack community is just phenomenal. I love that. What can be improved about Substack? I think, and I'm getting like this vibe, I love notes, Substack notes, which is basically sort of like like Twitter for Substack, I guess. But I love that feature that Substack has, because I learned a lot about new Substackers I would have found if the notes feature wasn't in place. But I think I'm getting this feeling that Substack is trying to sort of morph to be another social media engine. And I'm just like, no. Please, no. Don't bring video. Don't bring all these bells and whistles that Instagram maybe has or TikTok has. Just keep it pure writing. The pure heart of what Substack is writing. And I just really hope it stays that way, and that they don't try to introduce. I think they did try to introduce the live feature, and I don't know if it's, if it's
I
kicking
think
off
they
or
still
whatever.
do. As
Yeah,
far
but
as
I
I
just
know, they
really,
still have
yeah,
that.
I just hope it stays pure reading and writing. Simple reading and writing. So
Yeah. Excellent. Kyle, what about you? What's your thoughts on Substack so far? What's the big plus and what's maybe a big negative or something they could improve upon?
Well, I love Substack as just an entity that keeps me in check as far as it helps with not even really motivation as much as just the discipline of writing, where in the past I've ebbed and flowed in the maybe output, and it was personally for me. So the fact that I'm able to actually post the work that I'm writing for others to read, it just helps me, I think, improve overall, because I'm not just writing for myself anymore. And also I want to keep improving. I have no plans of leaving Substack and not continuing to write here, because I'm having a blast. I'm having a great time. But I also thought about possibly venturing into trying to submit some essays into some magazines and some other areas, contests and different things like that for some of my other writings, because there's quite a bit that I write that I don't post. Some of that is because it's, cowardice, and I feel like it's not ready. Especially in short fiction, I'm a little more gun shy than I am in other areas. So, but just continuing to help me get better as a writer. I wasn't in an MFA program. My background's not in English. Other than just a few English classes in college. So everything that I do is pretty autodidactive. And so it's, I can even see the first few essays that I submitted in January, where I was trying to find my voice and my footing, feel pretty cringe to me now. I'm keeping them up. I'm keeping them on there to keep myself honest, and where I can look back. But it's because it's cool to be able to see where you started in January. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just trying to figure it out. And so over time, I started to get a little bit more of a voice and structure of what I wanted and how I wanted to move forward. And so it's cool seeing those little differences and things, at least for myself. I'm not saying it would be fun for anybody else, but at least for me, I can see a starting point, and over time, from that genesis to be able to see, some changes and hopefully some improvements.
Mhm.
So, and also too, just to speak to Kimberly, just a really cool community here of like Substack readers and writers who love horror, and that write about horror, but also just other writers who may love horror, or other, we might be into the same. I love a lot of different fiction. Moby Dick is my favorite novel of all time. A lot of classics, things like that. That there's just that I love that about Substack, is that I can talk about horror with you guys tonight. I can speak about other books and film and essays and things like that with other people. And again, cross-pollination, like I mentioned earlier. And it's just a blast. I've never really had social media before. I have a pretty much defunct Facebook page that I haven't used since 2018. I've never really been a social media guy. So this is by far the closest I've ever come to having social media. And so the notes for me is a lot of fun. It's gives me the ability to kind of reach out. And I mean, honestly, I think as much as anything, it's been a positive just for growth, and getting to interact, just commenting on other people's essays, their writings. Also just if someone is commenting on anything that I post, or even whether it's something I wrote, whether it's a note, it just gives me the ability to meet people that are just esoteric, creative, go to the beat of their own drum, have a lot of really cool interests that maybe I have, maybe I don't, but I find it interesting, even if it's not necessarily my specific thing. Again, I work in a pretty soul-sucking corporate world that's very concrete, very literal, and that's okay. It's been good to me, but I would never meet anyone like you guys or a lot of the people that I've got to know as much as you can get to know someone on Substack, I guess, in my normal comings and goings of my daily life. So in no other way would I'm not out having dinner with other writers on the weekends and like some Hemingway, Fitzgerald situation in Paris. Those things aren't happening. So it gives me the ability to really hang out with some cool, creative people. And I don't have to leave my house, which is great too. I can just kind of, relax, talk to some people, get back to my writing. And two, there's the one other thing that I love about it is I'm a competitive guy by nature, specifically in like sports. But when it comes to writing, like I find writers that like seem really cool. I love what they're writing. I love their whether it's their prose, just their basic ideas. But it's really fun to latch onto those writers and really follow what they're doing. Not just because A, I enjoy it, B, I learn from it, and C, it just makes me want to be a better writer. I'm like, okay, I need to step my game up because this person wrote this essay on this film and it was fantastic. I don't want to copy that. But I want to be able, in my own way, in my own voice, be able to push myself harder and on the next thing I write, whether it's, again, film criticism, whether it's poetry, whether it's some type of short story, whatever the case is. It's just a great motivator, but then it just also always helps with motivation's great, but discipline's more important. So it helps with just getting in there and just, even if you don't have the time to write every day, I'm writing multiple days a week. And if it wasn't for Substack, I don't know if I'd be able to maintain that just because I don't have that push in my day-to-day life like I do since I've been here this last year. So, and I will try to make this more brief. I'm sorry I go off on tangents, but
no, that's all right.
For things that I would change, I mean, we're specifically talking about horror and horror films and writing. I would love to see. It would be great if film was more categorized specifically on Substack. I do think that I think we have a tight knit film community. Outside of that, I think it's hard. I think that's changing to a degree the longer we're here. I noticed in the first few months, it was like a lot of film writers were reading other film writers, but outside of that, I wasn't seeing like a foundation of readers that. I guess my point, I would love to keep breaking out to readers that are maybe not huge cinephiles that, are interested in reading what we have to say too. So you're more casual film fans and things like that. So, but ultimately just anybody and everybody. But I think, I don't know what that looks like. If Substack came to me and was like, well, how would you change that? I don't really know. But I think that we could always grow, and there could be that corner in that niche of film stack, film criticism stack, whatever you want to call that. I think it could be, it could always be expanding and growing, whether that's a collaborative effort between all of us throughout the year. As we're working on our upcoming Halloween one, I think collaboration is huge, especially in themes and holidays and different things like that. I think there's a lot we can do. Plus, I mean, there's not a ton think of all the people on Substack. Unless there's a lot that I'm just not seeing in the algorithm, there's not a ton of horror writers. I mean, there's quite a few film writers, but like specific to the genre we're in, and even horror writers, Carrie, for you, do you write horror? Do you write horror stories as well?
I do.
Okay. That's what I thought. I actually subscribed and followed you, but I have not got a chance to this week. So, but I look forward to catching up on your work because I was not familiar before, but now I am, and I will remedy that. So, it's such a big place, but I'm always finding new people all the time. So, but yeah, just a collaborative effort, I think. But again, we're in such a small pool right now that I think the sky's the limit that we could take off on these things, whether, you're purely writing, you're doing a mix of these things like Josh, you and Yanni, where you're doing YouTube and podcasts and things like that. It's awesome mixing the mixing of media. So yeah, I think just continuing to do that, continuing to just be bold and put things out there. And I've noticed that it's been a slow, it's just a slow process. I've seen a lot of people come and go in the last year. And I think there's that need to want to build as many writers as possible, as quickly as possible. And sometimes I think it's just, it's the marathon adage where you just have to be patient and grow an audience slowly. And it takes work. And sometimes it's not just the writing. You have to put the work into like getting to know people and drawing people in, because I could be writing the best essays. I'm not, but I could be writing the best essays on Substack. And if I'm not really getting out there and like trying to communicate and meet the community and reciprocate, and also try, and I can be terrible about this because I get so behind, but trying to also read and engage with the writers that I enjoy as well. It's just really hard to get anybody to read your work if you're not out there really. I don't like to use the word marketing because I don't think of it that way, but just, I don't know. It's like going to the library and you brought a book in that you wrote. If you just sit it on the table, somebody may not grab it. But if you go around and have conversations with people about, hey, I wrote this book. How about you? What do you like to read? And then from there, they might want to take that book with them. So that's what, at this point, that's where I think I just think there's a lot of potential for sure. So
Aren't we classified under culture? Is it because there's not, like you said, there's not a movie categorization. It's just we're all grouped under either fiction or culture, which is
that's a great question. I have no idea. That's a great question. I don't know where we would even begin to fall under. So much of the algorithm for me is like literature and I guess culture, because it's mostly lit stack and then film stack is like a combo of that. And there's some other philosophy and some other things that kind of come into play. But luckily, I've been able to curate out the opposite there and push out a lot of stuff that I saw come through early that I was like, okay, I don't want any part of this is on Substack. But yeah, that would be great. Why they have like a Bitcoin? And I've made a joke about this before, but there's like a Bitcoin category, but there's not like a film category. Like I don't understand it. And
that's weird.
I don't want to sit around and me complain about that all the time or anything, but I think, I think that could definitely be beneficial. But yeah, culture, I think, is the only thing that would make sense at this point. So for sure.
Excellent. Well, what about you, Carrie? Your time at Substack, what do you think? I think you alluded to a little bit of one of the positives, not as much drama, but what are some of your other favorite positives of Substacks, and what's maybe a negative?
Yeah. I think, and this is coming off of reading this Kevin Kelly article on self-publishing the other day, which is so good and so informative. It kind of blew my mind. I feel like the publishing industry is changing. And I feel like now it's things are switching to more of, it used to be that if you got your book published with the Big Five, that was king. That was paramount. And while that still may be so, I think that it's changing, where now platform is key. In fact, now I'm hearing a lot in the publishing industry, the Big Five, you can have a fantastic debut novel that they're going to turn you down for because you don't have a platform. Because now you're responsible for doing their job for them of marketing your book. So I'm kind of going, okay, well, shoot, if I'm the one that's going to be marketing my book anyway, what if I lean more into the self-publishing, which, I mean, Substack is a way of self-publishing, and also simultaneously a way of building your platform. So it is kind of the perfect way to do that, especially if you are a writer who wants to do that for a living. I mean, you can make money on Substack. for me, I'm understanding more as I go along that Substack is less about, oh my gosh, I'm being discovered. You know, like, whereas yesterday I might have had 4 followers or 4 subscribers, and now I have, you know, like 20,000 subscribers. That's not the game. It's the long game. It's producing beautiful work consistently. And I like it. I like it for that. I like that it, you know, what y'all have been saying, that it keeps you consistent and accountable, because now I don't want to let my subscribers down. That would be awful. So I consistently publish every other week on Tuesday, period, rain or shine. It also, Substack is brilliant in that, like, it used to be somebody published a book and now you're a published writer, and you know, you're up here, whereas your readers are down here. Substack reduces that, you know, that distance, where now if I want to connect with Miranda July, I can become, you know, pay under $10 a month and be a part of her exclusive circle of people that she directly communicates with. Yes, please. I'm all about that, and removing kind of that that distance between you and your favorite creators. I have to say that I know that, Kimberly, you do not like the video part of Substack. I will say that I include a narration with every single thing that I write on Substack. And I'm also pushing into, if you see behind me, this is a film set. I am going to be offering, hopefully in the next month or so, every single thing that I publish will also have a video with it too, of me reading it. And I know that's not for everyone. Not everyone wants to sit down and watch a 20-minute video on Substack of their of a writer reading something, but I'm into that. With the writers that I love, that read well and can narrate and can, you know, we all remember being kids. And we all knew the readers of books, whether it was a parent or a teacher that did the voices, right? Ooh, yeah, I want them to read it because they'll do the voices. Yeah, I will do the voices. I'm happy to do that. In fact, I almost love reading it for an audience almost as much as I love writing it. And so I hope that they keep that part, but I also don't, I mean, and that goes into what I don't like about Substack. I'm with you, Kimberly. I don't want it to become another Instagram or another TikTok. I want it to stay what it is now. And I am afraid for it to become more clogged with kind of that Instagram, TikTok video, loud thing that I don't want. So I'm kind of speaking, you know, out different sides of my mouth when I talk about the video. I also kind of feel like I wish I had a better.
Wasn't mine. That's why I'm not in the backyard. I'm out front.
I also wish that, and this has kind of been said a little bit, that they had a better algorithm. One thing I can say about TikTok is they have the algorithm thing down. Like, if they get you watching, because they know really quickly, for some reason, exactly what you like. And I wish that Substack had that better, because I want more people in my feed giving me their horror writing. And I'm having a hard time finding it. I'm finding some of it, but I want more. And I think that's, you know, A, because the algorithm could be better, B, because there aren't as many horror writers on there, but I wish that were better. And then the notes feature, I also like, but it also feels kind of social media-esque to me. I don't have a better suggestion on how people can find you rather than notes, but I wish there was one. Also, it does feel, even though you can be consistent, but sometimes, especially when you're starting out, it does feel like you're screaming into the void.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And that feels, I mean, there have been times when I've been like, who even reads my shit? You know, like, that's not the point. The point is consistency, but especially when you're starting out, it feels like, wow, I'm literally pouring my heart out here. Who is listening to this? And And
But the
so
fact that you can pour your heart out, I mean, before I found out about Substack, I thought long form content was extinct. And I'm like, no one is ever going to want to read anything that's over a minute ever in life again. So the fact that you could pour out your heart and put it all on the page, the metaphorical page, and have it there where you could see, like Kyle said, your progress over months, even though no one's reading it, I think is extremely important. And I just love that's we could do that in this space. It's just
Absolutely.
right.
Absolutely. And that's where the long game comes in, is that I've told every single time, I'm like, you are yelling into the void. I feel awful about that. I go, nope, I'm playing this long game.
Yep.
And I'm building a library that then the people, when they do discover me, can binge all they want.
Binge watch. Yep.
Exactly.
I see the same thing too. Yeah.
Yep. So I would say if you are one of those writers that is starting out and feeling like you're yelling into the void, just wait. Keep going, but don't quit.
Yep.
Well, I'll say that too. Let's put it this way. I didn't start my own Instagram account until about, what was it? Maybe November of 2021, maybe, I'm going to say. I have maybe just under 300 followers there. I've been here on Substack since January, and I don't know. I think I'm over 400 now, I lost track. Point being is it grew way quicker than it did in Instagram, and I guarantee you, because 90% of the new subs I get on Instagram are fake accounts. It's, hey there, how old are you? 51. I'm 25. Are you single?
Yeah.
I'm like, kid, you're like young enough to be my daughter. No, but that's the type of crap I get.
Totally.
But but I do like the audio thing, just for the audio versions. I think that's good, because I actually listened to one of your things while I was driving to work one day. Because 15, 20 minutes, that's about how long it takes me to get to work. I think, Kimberly, you were like talking more about the like goofy videos or stuff like that you would normally see, I guess, on Instagram and TikTok. Yeah. So, Yanni, what do you like best about not TikTok? Sorry,
Nothing.
Substack. Nothing. I've never even been on TikTok, and I certainly won't go on it now. But what do you like most about Substack, and what do you think it could be improved upon?
Well, I'll answer the latter first, because you just addressed my latter. I've been noticing it. There are two groups of people, I guess you would say, on Substack. I've seen that's growing. Of course, the bots. Because I write, sometimes I will dabble in erotica, erotic horror. I get the mistresses. That you find on just about every other site. Hey, what's your name? It's like, it's right there.
Yanni, hey Yanni.
Yeah.
Yanni, if I'm being honest, one of those is me. So.
Okay. just let me know which one it is. Of course, the other group of people, and I don't know why they feel like they have to infiltrate everywhere, but the naughty Austrian boy that will get us demonetized on YouTube if we say his name, his fan club now decide. And yes, I use Substack also as my morning news. I will admit that right now. I follow a lot of writers that do political stuff, and yes, the naughty Austrian boy, his lovers find their way on my timeline for some reason. And I wish Substack would actually take us seriously, when we're giving, we're reporting people that are blatantly down that road. I really wish Substack would do something about that. And believe me, I am for free speech. I am for, I don't want anybody banned because of their political beliefs, although, some of them are weird. But At the same time, if you are that blatant about it, you should be separated from the rest of us. And that's something I think Substack really needs to work on is moderation. They'll go after people, like erotica writers because, and I get it. You kind of want to keep that a little bit away from, especially if kids pop up on the site. I understand. But at the same time, it's like, don't go after them if they're paywalling everything too. If you're putting it behind a paywall, you're making the choice to read that stuff. And, that's the biggest problem I have with Substack right now is we're getting those types of groups and people.
Well, and
that
that's
are
where
joining.
too we were talking about. Kyle was talking about it too, about having like an actual horror section so we could find each other better. They probably need to do something like that for erotic or whatnot. So, if you're not wanting to find that stuff, other people who are looking for it can find it easier than it popping up or whatever. And same thing with the political stuff. If I'm if I'm a fan of one person or this person or what have you, you can find them without them flooding your thing. But
exactly. But to get on what I like,
but what's the fun?
The fun part's easy. This place has gotten me completely out of my shell because I used to think, okay, I shouldn't write certain things because that's going to not be cool and popular and things like that. And then, I started getting into a few other writing, fictional communities here. I don't think I would have written The Invitation if it wasn't for here, because I wasn't cool with basically going, okay, here's every flaw that I have as a human being and every anxiety I have as a human being. I'm just going to put that in a story. And I never would have done that if it wasn't for here. And I am so glad I wrote that. It took me an extra 2 or 3 weeks to write that story completely because it just killed me. It was like a great therapy session. And that is also the other thing that I love about horror too, period. We've all said it, it's therapy.
Yep.
It forces you. And I think that's why I like writing a lot of the taboos, because as a kid, I had that huge fear of death. Like I would literally get up in the middle of the night, scream that I don't want to die. I don't want to die. Now, I just wrote a few weeks ago, watching Threads and The Day After, and how those movies are just, to me, they are the scariest movies ever made. And because you sit back and you watch it and you realize, oh, this is what it's going to be like when everybody, finally launches the missiles. And, you, especially Threads. Oh,
I
man.
can't. I can't do it.
I've watched Threads 3 times, and every single time I have to just go somewhere, I will start bawling, because it is, when they say it is the most depressing movie ever made, they aren't lying one bit about it. It is so depressing to watch. It's a chore, but I loved it. And writing about those 2 movies, it made me confront my fear of, hey, you realize you live near 3 major, army bases? You won't have to see this. So I kind of, again, I write more, and for lack of a better term, naked now. I mean, it's awesome. Stripped, and I love it. And it's made me love. I never thought I could love writing more, and it turns out I do, thanks to Substack.
Wow.
Yeah.
By the way, I have your short story pulled up, The Invitation, and I'm going to read it right after we get off of this. So, yeah, I'm really excited to read y'all's stuff. Is there any way that we can say if somebody is new to our Substack, what's the one piece that you want them, one Substack piece that you want them to start with? I would be so curious to hear what y'all have to say.
Well, before I answer that, let me just say my favorite
Oh
thing
yes,
about
I'm so
Substack.
sorry, Josh.
No, that's all right. That's all right. That's perfectly all right. You're used to being the host anyway, but probably be better at than me. I was gonna say I'm gonna use my favorite thing about Substack, and I'm gonna use a sports analogy. Michael Jordan didn't just come in the NBA and wasn't just automatically the greatest basketball player who
That's
ever
right.
lived. He became better by going up against Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, Isaiah Thomas, guys who had already won championships. That elevated his game. I feel like being part of Substack is hopefully will elevate my writing, being around other writers, reading their stuff. I hopefully will make me better, and it keeps me in practice in between doing fiction and fiction writing, which I'm going to hopefully get started probably again in November. I'll start writing again. I think the negative part is it's not even a negative, it's more of a me problem, is I get overwhelmed real easily because I'm the type of person who wants to tackle 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different things at once. And I have a bad habit of subscribing to everybody. So in the interest of trying to keep track of everyone's writing, it's like if I miss someone, I forget to read somebody's or something, I get like, oh damn, now I feel bad because I didn't read their thing or whatever. So keeping track of everyone, because it is such a huge platform, it's kind of hard to keep track of everyone. That goes back to like if we just had like a horror section or whatever, but it's still fun to read other stuff that's non-horror. But I have to say this one amusing anecdote to what Yanni was talking about, the mistresses or whatever they're contacting him. Sometimes when I'm in an ornery mood, I like to fuck with them back. So like I had this one message me, and I just, all right, I'm gonna have fun with this one. And they're like, what's your name? Blah 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 blah. And like, so are you married? Goes, yes, I have 3 wives actually. You want to be my 4th wife? And they're like, what? What? Well, I live in a castle here in Transylvania right now, and I'm needing another bride. And she's like, can I have a picture of you? Well, I'm a vampire, so my reflection doesn't show. So sorry.
Nice.
And they actually, for a while, I don't know if they were actually believing me or not. I go, are you for real? Yeah. But anyhow, that I had to throw that one in. But as far as the one piece I would want people to read first, I would say probably one of my earlier posts where I talked about my experience seeing Hellraiser, which most of you might know is my favorite horror film. And I say that one because that just I think that post just shows my overall passion for the genre the best. So maybe that
What
just
is it
gives,
called so that we can find it?
I don't even remember. I'll have to go back and, well, let me look. Give me a second. And Kimberly, why don't you answer a question while I look up the
Sure.
title?
So my Substack newsletter is called Horror Concierge, and I came up with that name because I wanted to just deliver and talk about my favorite horror movies and books every Friday, which I still do. But I think when I started in January, and now that it had 8 or 9 months writing the Substack, it's really morphed into being a concierge for women who really want to be empowered and want to reinvent their lives through the lens of horror. So I sort of teach women's studies through the lens of horror. And I think I have 2 posts that I think it's pinned. I'm not sure, but the first one is really I think it's entitled "The Monsters Were Never Under Our Beds." And then a second one that I recently wrote called Beyond the Black Eyeliner. And they both really focus on, the first one, Monsters Were Never Under Our Beds, really focuses on how the female horror fan, we're out here, we've always been here. It's sort of a love letter to the female horror fan that even though the genre is very male dominated, that women of all types and backgrounds and ages love horror. And then Beyond the Black Eyeliner is really more of a personal piece where I talk about how an experience I had walking into a horror sort of store here in Orlando. It's sort of a catch-all that has like merchandise and books and paraphernalia, all centered on the horror genre, and really getting a lot of looks like, what are you doing here type of thing. And so really delving beyond, the female horror fan, I think, is still stuck in this 22-year-old goth kind of vibe, black eyeliner, tatted up. And while that traditional horror female fan definitely has, mad respect to them. They've sort of solidified the women's place as far as horror fandom is concerned. I think the female horror fan goes so much more beyond that.
Yes.
We're mothers, we're wives, we're professionals, we're pediatricians, we're doctors, we're across the huge gamut of the woman, the female experience. And we love horror and we know horror. And we're just as passionate about it. And we love the gory stuff. I love the gory stuff. I love the hardcore stuff. I mean, so it's just those two pieces I really talk about, the evolution of the female horror fan.
Yes. I love that, Kimberly. I love that. And I love that you're just like, we're more than just this trope.
Correct. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Was it-
Thank you.
I don't know if it was you or not, Kimberly, I was talking to, but I was talking to somebody about Audition the other day.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's and I even said that. It's like I that's where I want kind of horror to go.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see more female leads
Yeah.
do taboo things.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, just I love it. So
Yeah.
Yep.
For sure. I mean, we're virtually non-existent at horror conventions.
Oh, and
It's usually
Carrie, that title of that
22-year-old.
article is it's called Hellraiser 1987.
Thank you. I'm writing them
Nice.
all down so that I can binge.
Yeah. So definitely more
It's back
representation of the
in,
female horror.
it's from February. If you want me to, I can.
I can scroll. I'm good.
Excellent.
That is something that I wish
Kyle,
that
what's
they. Oh, go ahead.
No. I was just saying. Now I lost my train. No, Kyle. What's a particular post that you would want everyone to read that's finding out about you for the first time?
Well, if it came to film essays, I would probably go with probably The Fly is the one that I'm the most proud of so far. It was a pretty easy one to write because that's one of my top 10 favorite horror movies, and it's one that I think about a lot. And I don't know, the one that I covered there that I feel like especially talking again about where I started in January and where I was just a few months later, as far as, again, having a voice and really knowing how I wanted to approach the film beyond just speaking to the plot and a few of the themes, but also maybe adding a little bit of poetry to it too. And so that is probably my main film essay that I would recommend someone start with, that I feel pretty confident about. Believe me, I always can look back at anything I've written and just be like, oh my gosh, I need to just take this down. But that's one that I'm pretty, yeah, I know. I'm pretty proud of that one. And then as far as the poems that I've written, there's one for Father's Day that I wrote called O Pater's Chronograph, which is it's kind of an ode to my dad. He passed away about 15, 16 years ago. And so, it was a poem I wrote about him, very vaguely, but it's his essence. So I was really proud of that one. Had a lot of really good feedback on that one. And it seems like based off views, a lot of people read it. So that's maybe one of the poems that I would start with as well. And it's kind of the same thing. Some of the first few poems I posted were older ones that, I've thought about taking those down, but again, I feel like I'm hopefully improving as I go along. So, but those are probably the two.
Yeah.
Two I would go with.
Cool.
Excellent. What were you saying, Carrie? You were about to say something there.
Oh, I was just going to say that is something that Substack can work on, is a better way of us being able to access earlier things as readers of other people. I feel like it's hard to
Yeah.
like get back into people's earlier work, you know, like I wish there was a better way that they could
Especially
archive
on the
things.
phone app.
Yeah.
The
Yes.
phone app makes it really hard. Whereas if you're on the desktop version, if you can find they make it a little hard to find the actual main website sometimes. And if you can find that, because like mine's like, I have all the different sections where you can just click on, goes, oh, okay, this one's here's got all of his short stories. This one's got his movie reviews. Yeah, you're right.
Totally.
I didn't even think about that.
Mhm.
Yanni, what's something
Yeah.
that you would want? What's a post that you would want everyone that are just discovering you for the first time? What would you want them to read first?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously the invitation, because that is, if you really want an introduction to how my brain works and things that keep me up at night, that's the first one I would go to. But the second one is one that I'm really proud of, because I got to combine my actual job in with my horror writing, and it's Pump 3. It started out, I love entering Nikki, the I call her my favorite void demon. I enter hers all the time. Nocturnal narrator. That's Nikki. For those of y'all who don't know, she used to have a monthly, writing contest, and I turned in a few things for the writing contest, and Pump 3 became all right. I get to do, I occasionally get to do classic rock. So I'm gonna pull out my classic rock DJ, and every song that I had in Pump 3 was a foreshadow. So
Ew.
for example, Eric Clapton's Cocaine comes on, and one of the antagonists dies of a cocaine overdose in the bathroom. Then we had Jimi Hendrix's Fire come on, and the pumps outside explode. And I always thought I've always wanted to do something like that. And I've always threatened that I was going to do it to Meatloaf. I had a couple, I think I was going to do one to ABBA too, that I'm still threatening to do, like the entire The Visitors album. I want to take every track and try to figure out how to put it in a horror story, because that kind of is my other, I guess you would say, outside of horror and history, that's my third passion, is music. And I just love trying to figure out new ways of putting music into movies and things of that nature. I remember, it actually was one of my favorite TikTok things too, was I did my top 25 classical pieces in horror. Obviously everybody knows what 1 and 2 is. I've always said you can't go wrong. It's 1 and 2 is always right. It doesn't matter where you put them, because it's always going to be Psycho and Jaws. Is always going to be 1 and 2. But I love doing things like that, and I think you get to see a more playful side of what I do. And that's why I would go with the invitation, and that's why I would go with Pump 3. But I'd also highly recommend all my Tiny Terror Tuesdays. I love those things.
Those
you take
are
a mundane object, right? You like a fan, and then you turn it into a 500 word or less horror story.
Cool.
And I've kind of figured out something for a paywall, and that is I'll finish the story behind the paywall.
Nice.
So there's always a twist ending that comes behind the paywall. So yeah, it's a good way to start intriguing people to start paying.
Yep.
Awesome. Okay, I'm gonna pose one last question before we call it a night here. One last question here, and that is, well, we can keep on going, but I'm going to pose this question to everyone, and then I'll answer it last here. You've just written a horror story. It's being adapted into a film. What actors and actresses, and they can be alive or dead, doesn't matter, it can be past or present, do you want in that story, and who's directing it? Kimberly, you go first.
Hmm. I'm really looking forward to, I don't know, kind of, sort of, but not. The Ready or Not Part Two. So I love Samara Weaving. So I really like her. And I will want her. What kind of movie you said?
It'd be a horror movie. Just pretend you've written your own
Yeah,
horror story. It's being adapted into a movie.
yeah.
Pick your cast, pick your director.
Director Nia DaCosta. I like her. And anything supernatural, anything with demons, possession. That's my jam. That's my favorite horror subgenre. So have Samara Weaving, something directed by Nia DaCosta, where Samara Weaving, probably, I don't know her name and her real name, but the woman that played Naru in Prey in the Predator franchise, I love her
Okay.
as an actress. Love her. So just like maybe like a trio of women. The third woman probably being maybe because I've never seen her in anything else but Erin and You're Next. So Erin, the woman that played her, Samara Weaving, and the woman that played Naru, like a trio, and they're like fighting demons or possession or something like that.
Awesome. About you, Kyle. Who, if you had written a horror story, who would you want to star in it, and who would you have direct it?
This is a tough question. So on the spot, I would have to say, if the story that I would write, I would just do a sequel to a film that doesn't have a sequel. So I would do it's not straightforward horror. It's again horror adjacent, probably also sci-fi and an action film. But The Guest from 2014 is one of my favorite films of the last 15, 20 years. Like, absolutely love it. Halloween staple. I watch it every year. I love it. So I would, and they actually, and the soundtrack score to that is amazing. If you love 80s synth and kind of gothic new wave and things like that, it's amazing score. Well, there was a score of The Guest 2 that was made by the director, even though there's no film that exists for it, that you can actually get on Spotify and things like that. So I would want to write a short story sequel to The Guest and base it off where they seem to take it within the score of the fake second film. And then that would give the ability to bring back Dan Stevens and Maika Monroe, and then also that same director from The Guest. Even though it's over 11 years later, I know there's obviously an age difference, but I think it would be interesting to bring that story back. Although there is a part of me that doesn't want to touch that and needs to just stay one film and don't mess with that. It was pretty perfect for what it is. But I think that would be an interesting take. I could probably think about this longer and come up with something better, but off the top of my head, that I would probably go with those two actors, who are two actors that are interesting character actors who I don't think they're used enough in the industry, and would love to see them reunite for that. So for sure.
Excellent. How about you, Carrie? Who would you want to star in your story, and who's directing it?
Oh, my favorite, a story that I wrote.
It could be one that you've currently written, or just think of a future
man.
story that you might have written. Anything.
Oh boy. Oh gosh. I'm sorry. The audio cut out, and I had to come back in. So I missed when the story or the question was first asked, and
Oh, okay.
so can you come back to me, or is everybody answered?
Sure.
Okay, come back to me.
Okay. Yanni, who's starring, who's directing?
Oh, directing is hard because I have a plan for Aries Rising, which is something I'm working on kind of in the background. It's where you have an angel and a demon. They work together to basically hunt down rogues that are basically trying to end the world. And I haven't really thought of who would play Cain yet. Lazarus, which would be his angelic partner. Oh gosh, it's got to be David Tennant. It's got to be Lazarus. And I'm stuck on Kane's wife, Lily, between Denai Garia. Is that how you pronounce her last name? I struggle with her last name.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, and Deborah Ann Wool. I can't figure out which who would work better in that one. But you know what? I'd probably put it in the hands of Jordan Peele.
Okay. Good pick. Good pick. I'll go ahead and go, and then Carrie, you can go last. Off the top of my head, it's interesting because the first book that I wrote, which was called Hangman of Darkness, as I was writing that story, I was kind of casting the characters as if it was playing out as a movie. Okay, I could see this person playing this, playing that. So, casting, I had kind of like a almost an all-star of people of 80s 90s horror stuck in my head with a few recents, I guess. But I had I did have Ethan Hawke in there. I think he's a very
Nice.
underrated actor in the horror genre.
True. Yeah.
He was one that kind of popped in my head for this one character. I had Ashley Lawrence from the Hellraiser series. I had Daniel Harris also in there. Even though he's no longer with us, I did have Christopher Lee in this movie because why not? It's Christopher Lee, Barbara Steele as well, the probably the queen of horror as far as I'm concerned. And then as far as and also Kane Hodder, also in the, and Tony Todd, the other one that we lost way too soon. As far as directing it, it'd be really easy for me to just blurt out your normals, your Carpenters, your Cronenbergs, or whomever. But I decided I would want to go with someone who probably I would like to see do more movies that a lot of you probably don't know. Her name's Javanka Vukovic. I follow her on Instagram, but she's directed a couple movies. She directed a movie which is kind of a post-apocalyptic movie called Riot Girls, which you can find on Tubi, and I'd highly recommend it. And she directed like a segment for this one anthology movie called XX, not to be confused with X, but just XX, and it's not that type of movie, I promise you, or else it'd be called XXX. But anyhow, I'd like to, because you want to see like some of these directors who've done some smaller independent films get a chance at doing something that's a lot bigger or whatnot. So that would be my answer to that. So, okay, now on to you, Carrie.
Okay, so probably my story that I would have people start with is called The Inheritance. And if I were to make that into a movie, I would probably want Tim Burton to direct it. I know that seems like,
Yeah, but what? Hey, Tim Burton's, you can't go wrong there.
I just really, I just love such a distinctive style. Also, probably Danny Elfman would probably be attached to the project, because why not? So probably those people, but for the main character, Mia Goth, I was obsessed with her performance in Pearl.
Oh yeah.
I can't get it that like final scene where the husband comes home and she's smiling and like crying through the whole credits. I'm like, what? Is there anything creepier than that? So I just think I have not seen her in a movie that I was like, she was okay. Everything she's been in, I'm like, what can't you do, Mia? Damn it. So probably her.
I was going to say, even in the Suspiria remake, which I'm not a fan of the movie, she's definitely far and away the best part of that movie, the best
100%.
performance in that movie. Everyone else is all wooden and stuff in that movie. That was just my critique of the acting in that movie, but she was spot on. She makes that movie watchable.
See, that's the thing. If I couldn't get Jordan to do it, it would have to be Argento. Would have to do it too. And I thought of Kane. It's I don't know why, but Vinnie Jones pops into my head.
Mm.
I would love to see him wield a sword, just just a couple of times. I used to hate that guy when he was a soccer player, but now, like, you're awesome.
Awesome. Very good. Well, it's been a great time. Does anyone else have any other questions they would like to ask tonight before we sign off? I'm in no hurry, but
I kind of want to know, unless anybody else has a question, what scares you the most? And it can be things, that it could be like your stereotypical things. Oh, somebody with a knife, chasing me or whatever. But it could also be things that we wouldn't expect.
ooh, good one.
I've got two.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Okay. Well, and I'll steer my answers towards, supernatural horror. Well, one of them at least supernatural. The other could be. But I would go first in line with a point Kimberly made earlier as far as possession. The Exorcist specifically. And Kimberly, I think we're on the same page. Your favorite horror movie of all time, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Mine as well. And so it was terrifying from youth up until adulthood, before having children, specifically from the perspective of like losing control yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up not as fundamentally religious in a religious household as say you did, Carrie, or maybe even you, Josh, but being from the South, pretty typical and standard that you're growing up in that household. So there was always, you heard about the devil on a weekly basis. And
Yep.
so to take that in such a well-made film, a masterpiece, and to see at that point, a girl my age at that time be in a position like that was absolutely terrifying. To lose control to something that, from what you understand and are told on a weekly basis, is the epitome of all evil that's ever existed, right?
Yep.
So obviously terrifying. And then even as that carries on to adult, you can still understand that fear you would have from childhood.
Mm-hmm.
But then it added a different layer to it in the same way that and this is something I hopefully plan to write about at some point, but like the horrors of parenting, whether it's The Exorcist, whether it's Rosemary's Baby, whether it's The Shining, there's a couple different perspectives there. So for The Exorcist specifically, to be in the parental role and see your child in such a duress that literally the epitome of evil is inside of her and has changed her completely. And you take that as symbolism, a metaphor for a number of things, right? But just if you're taking that literally, is absolutely terrifying, on top of just like more generally the loss of control that you might have to be able to, the powerlessness to be able to turn every direction, religion, science, whatever it may be, and you're not getting the answers you need to take care of the one person that you love more than anything, and that also looks to you to take care of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you are trying to fight an outside source that is hurting your child, and you can't. It's very difficult to do anything about it, right? So that is absolutely terrifying. Literally gives me nightmares as an adult. And again, another reason why I love that movie so much is because, again, part of the fun of horror is putting you in those uncomfortable positions. And Kimberly, you write and talk to this all the time, putting yourself in those positions. And then like, okay, how would I, and this is pretty typical with I think any moviegoers, and specifically here, horror fans, what would I do in those situations, right?
Yep.
So, and then if you take something like, you take a film like The Shining, where again, from the perspective of the parent, instead of an external force harming your child, it's an internal force, and it's yourself, and not the loss of control of you helping your child, but the loss of control within yourself to protect that child from you, which is absolutely terrifying as well. So seeing two films like that from the perspective of like a child or a single person is such a different perspective as when you rewatch that as a parent. So, and not that you can't, someone without children can't intellectualize that the same way. Anyone and everything can take that from it, but just from my own specific anecdote, that is, that is just really terrifying. And then the other one would be, whether you look at it this supernaturally or even from a scientific slant, body horror. You know, middle-aged guy, I'm 40, just turned 42, you know, not getting any younger. And when you watch, like, you know, Cronenberg's filmography, especially his earlier films, The Fly, and then even like The Substance that came out last year.
Oh, I love that film.
Any type of so any type of body horror like that, where the vessel that we are in at all times, from birth through our youth, when that starts to let us down and gives up on us in a way, and there's really, you know, we can try to fight that for as long as possible, but eventually we're going to lose to that. That's ultimately, we all are going to face that one day. And so whether it's transforming into a fly or taking some type of substance where a better you crawls out of your back, or whatever the case, those just, you, again, it's so much of horror is loss of control.
Yep.
And so whether it's people you love or literally yourself, to things that you just, you can't at the end of the day do a lot about. And in a lot of movies there, you can, well, even with The Exorcist, you know, they win the day. There's death, there's sacrifice made, but at the end of the day, good, for the most part, won at the end, at least for that day. And even, you know, in The Shining and things like that, ultimately the heroes were able to escape. You know, Jamie Lee Curtis in Halloween, you know, made it to another day at the end of that film. But with body horror, in most of those cases in those films, there's not a happy ending to those movies. And just like it's not a happy ending at the end of our real life experiences like that. I mean, hopefully a happy ending, but you know what I mean? Like it's finite, correct? So that is, and so when you face that reality and that existential crisis is what ultimately I think body horror embodies, right? No pun intended. But that to me is fascinating, but also terrifying, and I absolutely love it. So those are the two for me. And I'm sorry for my long answer, but
no, not at all.
You just explained why I love writing splatterpunk.
Splatterpunk's awesome.
Splatterpunk is amazing because it deals with some of the same things that body horror does, and echo horror. I think at the same time too. There's not a lot of echo horror movies that have happy endings.
Yeah.
No. And the other thing that came out of what you were saying is you brought up The Substance, and if you've never seen it, if you like The Substance, go watch The Stuff.
I've seen it
in the 1980s.
I love it.
Love it.
It's great. It's one of those silly, you know, it's one of those movies you just love for no reason.
It's if you haven't seen it, go watch it.
Yes, it is
Have
very.
you all
watched
watched
The Stuff.
The stuff, yeah.
It's great.
It's 80s, yeah.
And
Have you all seen a Stuart Gordon film called The Beyond? It's like a Lovecraftian body horror
with Jeffrey Combs and Barbara Crampton and Ken Foree, I think, was also in that.
Yes, he is. So if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. There's camp. It's silly, but it's also very effective. The special effects similar. Has anyone seen Society, the Brian Usna film from '89?
I think so. Is that with the kid and the?
I don't think I have. I've heard of it.
That is the one that ends where it's pretty benign throughout the movie until the ending.
It's like a mass orgy, right? Like a
yes,
yes.
And so that is.
Then I'm definitely gonna have to watch it. Then
it's good.
It's fun throughout, but the ending is what makes it a classic. It's kind of like Sleepaway Camp. There's interesting things throughout the movie, but man, the ending is what gets you. And so, it's not necessarily a twist to say Sleepaway Camp, but man, society ends. I'll say this: The Substance, definitely there's some homage there and some influences by that film for sure. I could count probably 30 different homages and influences in that movie based off different body horror. But
Yeah.
That one for sure. Highly recommend. Again, The Beyond, which is Stuart Gordon, and then Society, which is Brian Usna. So, who actually, I believe those two guys work together. And I think they wrote Honey, I Shrunk the Kids together, weirdly enough. So, but yeah, I'd highly recommend it. So,
See, I'll go with mine, and mine is Dying at Work, because I have two separate nightmares when it comes to my job. One of our stations is a political talk station, and I have a constant nightmare that somebody just throws a pipe bomb into the building while they're on the air. But the whole thing is, we got 3 morning shows that are live, so I'm on the air at the time, and when the bomb goes off, it's just, and that's kind of where it ends. It always ends there. So I don't know if I live or not. But at the same time, the second nightmare I have is because I don't have a television in my studio when we do, because I do morning sports talk. So we don't have a television in the studio. And it's also my biggest fear is my program manager coming in and going, Matt, get the red sheet. And
What does that mean?
We have 2 sheets in our in every studio. It's FCC regulates this. White sheet is fine because the white sheet is normally, your normal EAS stuff. It's your tornado warnings and that sort of thing. The red sheet is imminent nuclear attack.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah. And you never want to hear get the red sheet.
Yeah.
Because you're going to be where you live for the next 14 days, basically, until the levels go down. Yes, as you can tell, I've learned a lot about surviving these things, sadly. But I have that dream every once in a while. It's either that or there's some kind of national emergency while I'm on the air, which I think I might be the only person in media that doesn't really want to cover a national emergency. Because we get people here on TV all the time. And the main reason why they come down here to do the news is they want a hurricane on their resume. Why? I don't know why you want to stand out like an idiot in the middle of. I will unmercifully, because I'm on what we call the red team at work. So any type of natural disaster, etc., I have to be in the building. Mostly because I'm the closest one to work. So, and I'm about the only single person left in the building. So, of course, where the hell am I going to go, right? That couch is very comfortable. I will say that because I've ridden out 3 hurricanes on the upstairs couch. But that to me is just I can't. I don't know what it is. I'm okay with dying everywhere else, but not at work. Because it's some kind of weird thing to me. Like I don't, and yes, somebody who has paid their dues being in a radio station at night. Yes, I have had the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 nightmare and all those other, dead air type of things. That to me would be the ultimate, I think, that I would want to do but not want to do, is if I ever did overnights again, have the serial killer call in and just admit to everything while they're on the air. That is just, that's just the strangest thing ever. And I don't know why, but all of us in radio were fascinated with something like that happening to us. Like we just want to be on the air when that happens. Yeah. And I think Stern.
Have you seen Pontypool?
Yes.
Yeah.
Love Pontypool. Yeah. I think, you know what though? I think Howard Stern actually did get to interview. I don't know if y'all heard that or not, but like supposedly a serial killer called into Stern's show back in the 90s.
Really?
Whoa.
Yeah.
Well, it wouldn't surprise me back then in the 90s. Stern would have anybody on practically.
Yeah, I'd have to go back and remember which one it was, but I think he said, yeah, think they said, yeah, oh, this is one of the bigger guys that they were trying to catch back in the 90s.
Oh,
Wow.
So
Awesome.
I'm glad I don't have to deal with idiotic things like that, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Kimberly, did you have something that like really what scares
Sure.
you the most?
It sort of mirrors what Kyle said. So my top 3 favorite horror movies of all time, no matter what comes out now, will always be The Exorcist, The Entity, and The Thing. And I think the common thread through all 3 of them is just the loss of control. So with The Exorcist, just like what Kyle said, you have this child who's experiencing this, and that has to be very terrifying for a child to experience the loss of control of their own body, their own agency, but also to see a mother who literally cannot do anything to help their child. So that is terrifying. And then when you move into the entity, you have this entity who is assaulting and raping this woman, and she can't see it,
Mhm.
and it's
Wow.
repeatedly, and that is like, you're not safe anywhere you are. You're in your bedroom, you're in your bathroom, and you're looking around, like looking over your shoulder, and just that fear of something could attack me at any given time and I can't see it and no one believes me. So not
Yep.
only does she have the insult to the injury of being raped by this entity, but also knowing but no one believing her and gaslighting her. So that is just, I can't even. And then with The Thing, you have in that case, you have friends, colleagues who work together. But can you imagine having your family members or your loved ones where you're not sure if that is that person that you love, know and love.
Mhm.
So those 3 things intertwine is just terrifying. I love it. And I love movies like that, but it's just so scary when you actually think about it, especially from a woman's point of view. When you really think
Yep.
about it,
Mhm.
it creeps me the hell out.
Yep.
Creeps me out.
Yep.
There's only been one movie ever really that really scared the living hell out of me, and it's not even a horror movie. Back in 1984, there was a made-for-TV movie that came out on NBC. I'm pretty sure it was NBC, called Adam. And I was about 10 years old when this movie came out. This was basically the real life story of the abduction and murder of Adam Walsh. Of course, you probably know his dad, John
Yeah.
Walsh, on American Most Wanted.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That movie as a 10-year-old scared the living shit
Yes.
out of me, as it was intended to do so. Now, time goes on, and you kind of forget about certain movies. When I started having kids and they were younger, all of a sudden that movie popped in my head. And this goes back to what Kyle was talking about, being a parent and all that stuff. And I was never a helicopter parent or anything, but trust me, when they were young, I kept a very strong eye on them. And
Mhm.
I even remember, I remember shortly after, I remember watching It Chapter 2, which, overall, I mean, it's got some scary scenes in it and certainly not as good as the first one. But you remember the scene in the fun house with the kid who gets eaten by Pennywise. A week later, we're at the tri-state, we have like a little fair here, and I remember having my son go to one of the porta pots or whatever, and all of a sudden that movie creeped into me, and I remember feeling some anxiety
Yeah.
about that, even though I'm standing right outside that thing, and he was probably 8 or whatever at the time, and my daughter was probably about 9, so it's like little things like that will creep, that might cause me a little bit of nauseous or whatever, but there's movies that might, disturb me a little bit, but that movie in particular, Adam, really got to me back then. And then some, whatever, 35 years or so later when I started thinking about that movie again. So
Mm.
I've never heard of that one. I have to check it out.
I don't even know. I mean, like I said, I haven't watched that thing in over 40 years. I
Wow.
imagine if you looked at, you might be able to find it on YouTube. Maybe it's on Tubi, but that's
I'm surprised Peacock hasn't put their old NBC made for TV movies on there.
Yeah.
That's true, because I was also, well, all right, this one isn't scary, but it was what I grew up on. If you remember the V miniseries, and there's a classic example. Grant's more sci-fi, but definitely has a lot of commentary that I didn't notice when I was 9 or 10 when that miniseries came out. You look back and, oh yeah, they're talking about fascism coming to the United States, only in the guise of aliens, much
Aliens,
like
yeah.
much like John Carpenter's They Live. It's kind of almost the same type of themes there, but yeah.
Mhm.
I don't know if it- uh Kimberly, are you a mom?
Yes.
So I don't know if it was like this for you, but when I was pregnant, and probably up until when my kids were about 3, I took a big step back from horror because it was so much, and I needed to believe for a little bit that the world was better and safer than it is. Did you experience that at all?
No, I was the exact opposite. I was 9 months pregnant and I went to go see Possession by myself.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I had to
lean more into it, especially the body horror. Like
Interesting.
I just horror to me is just it's such a therapeutic, cathartic
Uh-huh.
fact. If I'm happy, I watch horror. I'm pissed off, I watch horror. I'm sad, I watch horror. Like it's
Yeah.
so yeah. That's
Okay.
funny.
So yeah, my experience was, I guess, just totally opposite. Like I had
What I will say though, now as a parent though, when I do watch, like I love the gore, all the things, but when it comes to hurting children and little kids,
Yep.
now I'm like, I can't watch it. I can't.
See,
Yep.
that was gonna be my question. Is where's the line for you?
Yeah, I can't.
Where's the
That's
line for everybody?
Ooh, that's
That's
such
the
a good
line.
question. Oh my
That's the
God.
line.
Yeah.
First, I
I
have to
can't-
preface this. When, let's see, our daughter was about 10 months old, and my wife was pregnant with our son, and we went and saw Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. So obviously, it didn't affect my wife either.
No.
Um, but as far as the line goes, they've been killing kids in horror since Frankenstein did it in 1931 when he tossed that little girl in the pond. A scene that was actually deleted from the original theatrical cut.
Right.
Actually, Stephen King has killed more kids than John Wayne Gacy, basically.
Yes.
Seriously.
But there's
I
a
think we're-
difference. There's a difference between, oh, I'm gonna slash this kid or whatever, or throw him into a lake. There's a difference between that and I'm gonna take a child and torture them on film, or rape a child on film. That is like, I feel like right now, even
Yeah,
I'm
I
like,
can't-
I have
I
a
can't do that.
reaction in my
can't do that.
body.
Yeah.
I won't. I'm not interested.
Yeah.
Where the
I
line's
agree.
drawn for me is in Terrifier 3. Okay. And if people love Terrifier, great. I really enjoyed the first one anyway. They've kind of gone downhill for me from each sequel, actually. When it's being played for laughs, maybe then I'm not going to be quite into that. If it's being done for a purely terrifying effect, like the scene with Georgie in It, for example, is a perfect example where that works, or Charlie in Hereditary. Both are a couple good examples I could think of. I could think of the baseball kid in Doctor Sleep too.
Yeah.
Speak of another
That's a good point.
Right. But when it's being done for laughs, you can do that with adults, fine. Or even, but when it's with kids, then maybe I might have that kind of drawing the line for me. And then I've never seen the Serbian film and never will because of what you just kind of alluded to. So, about rape. So I don't even like watching rape scenes, period.
Nope.
To be honest with you, even if it.
So I have a question.
Unless the victim comes back on top and gets her revenge.
Right. Like in The Last House on the Left, that's totally doable because there's an arc to her and she comes back. But yeah, just gratuitous.
When it goes on, but sometimes it goes on. Like in Spin in the Grave, you could have shot that scene much like Hitchcock shot the shower scene, and would have still had the same effect without going a little too far with it, I think.
Yeah.
So what if the kids are the villains, though?
Well, then it's all
Well, but then they have agency.
Right.
And that's
right.
a
Well, I
difference.
just mean, yeah, they're taking
It's about
over
agency and
monsters.
control.
Yeah.
And yeah. And if you have, yeah, that changes everything for me anyway.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing but there's a lot of good kid horror as far as like
yeah,
the kids
for
are the
sure.
bad guys. So, yeah,
Totally.
for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, Serbian film, that is you're talking about crossing lines that you don't want to go.
Yeah.
That's just one of those
I've never
movies
seen
that,
it.
yeah, I haven't seen it either. And it's just one. I mean, it might be a well-made film, but there's just some things where I'm like, I know I've seen other films throughout my life, especially when I was younger and a little bit more adventurous and just wanting to see anything and everything. And I, when I got done watching it, I'm like, man, was that really worth having that with me? That that whatever that imagery is, where it comes down to it's just not really worth. That's why I've never seen Cannibal Holocaust, because
I haven't either.
Real life animal cruelty in that. There's a lot of those Italian films from the 70s and 80s that I won't watch because for those reasons. So if they were edited in some way, I might, but even then still, I feel like I'm giving credence to it when it maybe doesn't deserve it. So
I think it's in storytelling. If you're going to have a character go through something that is really shitty, it's usually a pinch that then makes the reversal of some sort, or like a comeback that much more triumphant, right? And if you the reversal or the triumphant part won't land unless the pinch is big enough, right?
Yes.
So those have to match.
Yep.
In a lot of the films that you're talking about, I haven't watched, but because I'm curious, I'll go to their Wikipedia page and read the plot. I don't see, to me, it feels like a lot of gratuitous, like it's all pinch. And when it's all pinch, then it starts to feel like the director or the writer really has some things they need to maybe talk to somebody about and not put it on in a film. Because I'm not that every film has to have be totally redeemed and we're wrapping it up with a bow and poof, it's all tidy. I don't need tidy films, but I do need something that doesn't feel like somebody had some major issues, that they were just getting their jollies out and creating a film that then we're like, wait, what? Ew. You know?
I'll admit it, I've seen a Serbian film. It's very, yes. I probably cringed 90% through that movie. But then when I fully understood, I'm not going to defend that movie, by the way, but doing a little background research on that movie, it was an allegory for the Bosnian War, is basically what it was. How far, you could push somebody, especially under those circumstances. But at the same time, I'm not going to sit here and defend it, because like I said, and I've seen, a whole bunch of movies that probably shouldn't have been made. And that's the one I've cringed the most watching, is a Serbian film. And it's also scary how you could probably legitimately have that happen in real life.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you could honestly, but going back to the pinch for a second, I think that's what makes I Spit on Your Grave and Last House on the Left actually work.
Yeah.
Is just that they come out on top in the end.
It's probably why Eden Lake did not work for me at all. There's a lot of pinch but no payoff. And I remember being pissed off by the time and Grant, once again, you don't always have to have I don't even want to call it a happy ending, but I think when you're dealing with real life horror, like human on human horror, I'm kind of wanting to have that a little bit. It's like mentioned Jordan Peele, Get Out. Originally that ending, and it would have been unfortunately realistic. Chris gets arrested by the cops instead of being saved, and gets railroaded for murder, which is totally plausible in today's
For
Well,
sure. Yep.
it,
But I
not
believe
just
it.
today, but historically.
Mm-hmm.
But he decided not to because he decided, you know what, let's give us a win this time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I don't know which ending would have worked. If that would have worked better, it would have been. I often think about if that had he gone with the original ending, if that would have been even more profound, but also understand why he went the direction he
Mhm.
went.
Yeah.
I legitimately wonder if Jordan wasn't thinking when he got there, when he did the alternate ending, he's going, you know what? I kind of made my point. I don't need to
Yeah, I think
nail it
that,
any further.
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I
I
just
agree.
recently rewatched it a couple of weeks ago, just because I was including it in my series of like supernatural horror, the movies for novices or whatever. Because I was like trying to determine where am I good, what subgenre am I putting this in, but so I had to rewatch it and trying to see if I was justified in it, putting it in cult horror, which kind of is because it is kind of a cult, but only not motivated by religion rather than basically power and racism, really. But
Mhm. Yeah. Still good though.
yeah,
Guys, I have to jump. I put it in the
okay.
note. I'm so sorry. I've got to go pick up kids from theater. You all
Hey,
please keep going. I have to run and go go run errands and be I call it a Uber dad. I got to get kids
Yeah.
around and go run and do that
I've
Yep.
stuff. And
been there,
Duber.
done that.
could you all see me okay, by the way? I didn't
Yeah.
get up
Oh
to turn the
yeah,
light on.
Yep.
oh
Okay,
yeah.
okay, gotcha. Like I was afraid because it's gotten dark, but I didn't want to get up, so I didn't turn the lights on. So earlier I had the windows, but anyway, I've enjoyed talking to you guys so much. Again, would
Excellent,
love to do this again, and I will talk to you all soon. Thank you so much.
Take care, Kyle.
awesome. Thank you
Appreciate
Thanks,
for
it.
being
Kyle.
here, Kyle.
Watson.
Have a
Thank
great rest
you.
of the weekend.
Hmm.
You too.
Bye.
All right. Okay. Well, I'm like trying to think any more on there. Of course, I was like thinking too about not having a happy ending or where the person survives at the end. One movie where that didn't need to happen was In a Violent Nature, just because the characters already that he's hunting are all despicable anyway. And I kept on waiting. We have 20 minutes where she gets in this truck and we're having this conversation that goes nowhere, and I kept on waiting for the killer to pop up at the last second, like he's working with this lady that picked her up. And I thought, well, that'd be such a great ending. It would remind me of the end of House of a Thousand Corpses, where the girl thinks she got away with Captain Spaulding, and at the very end of it, here comes Otis there in the back seat. But yeah, it
Mm.
just made me think of that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think
Oh, go ahead, Kimberly.
I was gonna say I just saw Weapons recently. That was the latest movie I've just seen, horror movie
Hmm.
I've seen. And have you guys all seen it?
Mm-mm.
No,
I haven't
but
yet.
I've heard a lot about it. But
Okay,
I'll
it's
probably will at
phenomenal.
some point.
Phenomenal. And it has a 50% happy ending, 50% not happy ending. But
Hmm.
there's definitely a scene where a child is going through some type of abuse. And it really makes you like, oh my gosh, I can't believe like there's kids. It makes you reflect like I said it
Hmm.
to my husband, like, there's kids that this is their daily
Yeah.
life. Like they go to
Right.
because this kid goes to school in the movie
Hmm.
and he's dealing with whatever he's dealing with at home, and it just
Mhm.
makes you think like, oh my gosh, there's kids that have this is their reality. And you know, and so it's really, and it made me think like, oh man, it's like this movie is like really, it's really making you think like,
Mhm.
you know, as a parent,
Hmm.
like there's some how fortunate
Right.
your child is.
Hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, but you guys have to see it, it's so good.
What is it called again?
Weapons.
Weapons
Weapons.
just came
Yeah,
out a
yeah, it
couple
just
weeks
came
ago,
out.
I think.
So
Cool.
good, so good.
Here,
I'll
so
check
get
that
a little
out.
more light
Yeah,
here.
I've been thinking about, the line conversation that we've been having, like what's the line and the pinches and everything, which I think is really it's interesting. I mean, because I keep thinking, well, if you have all these, like, we don't need it tied up in this tidy bow, right?
Hmm.
That's not the point.
Right.
But I guess for me, it has to I don't need like a moral out of it, but I need the film to be saying something more than look how shitty human existence can get. I guess.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
Yeah.
It absolutely does. Yeah.
and if that's all that your film is saying, like we already know, that it I mean, maybe not personally, but like I gotta have more to hold on to than that. Add to the conversation about anything. I mean, like there are so many things you can choose from, like have something else other than that. Say something.
Yeah.
But don't just say that, I guess.
Right.
Correct.
Well, and with movies, even the movies where there is somewhat of a triumphant ending, there's still always collateral damage. So you could take any Friday the 13th film, for example. Yeah, you have your one, maybe sometimes two survivors, but all their friends still got killed, and they're still going, even though they're going to live on or whatever, unless you're Alice, she doesn't make it. She's the only one that came back and got killed, but they're going to still live with that grief for the rest of their lives. So that's why it's not necessarily, yes, your protagonist survived, but they're going to be living with this the rest of their life, as we saw with Laurie Strode, whichever timeline you go into, with the H2O or going to Halloween 2018. Yeah, she survived 20 years ago or 40 years ago, but she's still living with it.
Yeah. Yep. For sure. Yeah.
That's kind of like Saw in a way. If you think about it, because I remember when I was writing my article on you've already lost the game even before you started playing. That was the thing about John. It's always, okay, well, there's gonna be you're going to die, or if you actually do survive, you are so changed. And you basically, if I don't know if anybody's ever noticed that, just that everybody who survives John's game turns into one of his minions.
Yeah.
Because you have Amanda, and you have
The doctor, Dr. Gordon.
Dr. Gordon. And like I said, everybody who survives always ends up, and they always end up with the same conclusion. John's right. I haven't been taking my life as serious as I should.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, but I guess that's why Saw fascinates me so much.
Oh.
Yeah.
I always say John Kramer is not a villain. He's not the villain of the entire Saw franchise. He's a mirror to the human condition. And he selects his victims already knowing what they're going to do, and he wants them to prove him wrong.
And nobody ever does.
Oh, yeah.
And they really do. And he knows what you're going to do before you do it, but prove me wrong. But I think he is so mirrored in the fact that he doesn't have any faith in humanity, and he wants someone to prove him wrong. So, I don't know. I love John Kramer. I love this franchise.
And it was kind of funny because I was reading, or not reading, but I was watching a literary tuber the other day, and she was bringing up the good point of we have sanitized our bad guys so much lately. It's either they were right all along, or they're a victim of society, or this, that, and the other. And I'm sitting there going, no, that's absolutely right. I want evil. I don't want you to justify your evil.
Well, then you gotta see weapons.
Yes.
Based on what you just said, you have to see weapons.
Wait, so what you're saying then is you want a character, you want your villains to be all evil with no kind of complication, no kind of nuance, just bad.
And I'll say this. This is why I love Kramer, is because his actions are inexcusably evil. I think we can all agree that. Putting him through the game, it's inexcusably evil. They explain why he's evil, but I never came out feeling
Neither.
sorry
No.
for John.
Yeah.
And I think that was one of the messages she was trying to convey, and one of the message I agree with. I don't want to feel sorry for the bad guy. You know, I want you, if you're going to be evil, if you're going to be, you know, if you're going to pull this stuff off, you know, I don't want to hear about your, you know, oh, I was just getting, what was that movie? One of the most popular movies of all time, where the guy robs the bank because he wanted to get his girlfriend the transgender surgery.
Ah.
I can't remember what.
Don't know that one.
Oh God, it was I way back in the day. It was like in the 70s, and maybe I'm coming from it from more of a, because one of my favorite genres is always been the exploitation movies, and I see a lot. If you have a message about society, and we never give those movies enough credit, because the exploitation movies, all of them had messages about society. And if you want to make that message, that's fine, but don't make me feel sorry for the bad guy, because, you know,
Yeah,
I don't want to.
It's the one critique I had of Coppola's Bram Stoker's Dracula from '92 is that he made Dracula somewhat sympathetic, and I don't want that. I want the Christopher Lee, Bela Lugosi.
So
I'm
true.
straight up evil. This is who I am. This is what I am. This is what I'm gonna do. Don't feel sorry for me, because this is what I am. It was the only thing. It wasn't even Keanu Reeves's bad English accent, but I could get past it. I can get past it because Keanu seems like he's a really cool dude in real life, so I'll give him a pass. But
I feel just the opposite, and I don't.
Really?
I don't know why. Yeah, like I want complication. I want to not know how I feel about it. I want to feel about human villains. Not all of them, but a lot of them. I want to be like, man, I actually like, that's why I liked Dexter. So I mean, I know that's not in our horror genre necessarily, but like that's why I liked Dexter so much, because I was like, yeah, I'm rooting for him. Also, he's killing people, but he's killing the bad ones, but he's still killing. Like I felt, you know, like
Did you feel that way with Pearl then?
I felt, I mean, we could get into how I feel about psychopathic killers. Like I feel empathy for Pearl, because she's even at the table when she's talking to her sister-in-law, and she's like, I don't know why I'm like this. Why am I like this? Like, I don't know why I'm like this. Like, I feel empathy for psychopathic killers in that they did not choose the nature or the nurture. They didn't choose their set of genes. They didn't choose how they grew up, which are kind of the two things that determine how we turn out and what our behavior is. So in that way, even though I'm like, these people should not be walking around the streets of this world, you know, like I also am like I saw this special where they were interviewing psychopaths that are in jail for life. Right. And the guy that was interviewing was like, but you have a daughter. I don't understand. You have a daughter, and yet you went out and you killed all these people. And he said, I don't know. It would be like telling you, speak Arabic. Just do it. Other people around you are doing it. Why can't you? I just don't feel that way. And so because of that, I'm like, oh, you know, like I feel the empathy even for these characters that you would be like, well, of course not. Like they're all evil. When it comes to human characters, I can't get behind that. Now, institutions, absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Cults, yep. Racism, yep. Patriarchy, like all these things, because those are perpetuated by people, but they're not people. I want those things to go to hell and die, but people, that's different.
Yeah.
In my brain anyway. But I totally respect.
Yeah. I'm 50-50. I love the backstory of villains and why they are the way they are, and I understand. I have empathy, But then I also love the pure. There's no even though I cannot stand The Strangers, the line that redeemed the whole movie was like, because you were home. I I just wanted to kill you because you were home. And there's no, and I just wanted to do it, and so I do love evil for evil's sake, but I also love like the movie The Cell, which is such an underrated.
Oh God, that's
Oh
so
my
beautiful
gosh,
too.
it's so good.
Oh, so good. His backstory was just so gut wrenching, and I was like, this, like you said, nurture and nature. Like he's pure product of his environment, his upbringing.
Yep.
So I felt such sympathy for him, but he's still serial killing women,
Yeah.
but I get why he was the way he was. you know?
Yeah. I think it's probably because of how I grew up. I grew up with things being black or white, period.
I
Yeah.
see.
And
Mhm.
and I think that's where it comes from. So,
Yeah.
Okay.
in since that's how I'm raised, that comes naturally to me to
Mhm.
damn someone to hell. I don't like your
Yeah.
nope.
Yeah.
But
Right.
as
Okay, I get that.
as I've deconstructed, I've been like, we can't be doing that to people. So I fight against the black and
I
white
see.
so hard. Hence
Mhm.
why I think, Yanni, I can't with being like, yep, I need them all. I need them
Yes,
bad. I need
sir.
them all evil,
Yeah, I think though that they're and I can appreciate understanding where they're coming from because I'm that way. I'm like, I can understand where you're coming from, but why did you have to go down this? Why? Like, but I'll be honest too. There's a lot of things that I think you brought it up with the systems. I believe that with Dahmer. Like, don't get me wrong. What Jeffrey Dahmer did, absolutely
Mhm.
disgusting. And I would condemn that thing till the day I die. But then, and I wish more fictional storytelling of Dahmer would really put the blame where it belongs. And that's on the Milwaukee Police Department.
Well, yeah. Oh, yeah,
Mhm.
for
Oh
sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because that could
You
have
know,
been stopped
Oh
Yep.
yeah. Yeah.
oh,
way
absolutely.
earlier, especially. Oh, I'm not even going to try and pronounce his name because I know I'll butcher it. But the
When
young
that guy escaped.
Asian kid.
Yeah.
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 And they didn't believe him because A, he was gay, and B,
Mhm.
he
Of
was
another
young.
race. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Too.
and right, he wasn't white. And
Yeah.
Hmm.
that to me, I don't think it's ever really truly been greatly told when it comes to people like Jeffrey Dahmer. And I
Mhm.
really wish we would, have the guts to do it.
Mhm. Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah.
And horror seems to be the genre that could do it and get away with.
Mhm.
We've seen it with. Well, we saw. Just talked about Get Out a little bit. Certainly, kind of scratched the surface there with that. But yeah, I'm trying to think of other movies that have done that a little bit. But I think. Oh, no, I was gonna say Candyman, but not really. Kind of, sort
It's
of,
kind
but
of sort of. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Kind of sort of.
And once again, that's a villain too, who's not. Who's kind of got a gray area to him. Yeah, he
Yeah.
does some pretty heinous things, but you kind of understand why he does what he
Mhm.
does a little
Mhm.
bit. So I could
Yeah.
probably once again be 50-50 like you. I mean, uh, do I excuse the actions of Pamela Voorhees? Not really, because
No.
none of those counselors were directly responsible for
Yep.
Jason's drowning, but we understand the psychosis of
Mhm.
it, and then you can
Mhm.
therefore understand why Jason does what he does, because you killed my
Yeah.
mother and you
Right.
remind me of these people that came here, so you're on my land anyway, so
Mhm.
get off my yard, so to
Yep.
speak. As Kane Hodder would say, hey, he just wants to be left alone. These kids keep on coming up here in my lake here, having sex and getting drunk. I don't want that type of
Mhm.
shenanigans going on, so
Yep.
Yeah.
but right. Well, it's been a one heck of a night there. I'm glad
Yeah.
everyone joined us. Hope everyone. I'll definitely probably redrop this link probably on my Instagram page too as well. So yeah, thanks everyone. Hope everyone enjoyed it.
Yeah, this is fun.
This was
Yeah.
Awesome,
this more often.
awesome.
Yeah.
had a
Well,
good time.
I try to do one of these at least once a month or so, and I've got my rotation of people that I've brought on here. So you guys are definitely on that. So we'll
Cool.
definitely carry this on going forward. I
Awesome.
normally will take a break around November through the rest of the year just because I know holidays coming up and everyone's busy typically, so it's kind of hard to nail down people necessarily. I'm wanting to, since we have so many people on Substack from overseas, I'm going to, and because of the time difference, I'm going to try and do like an all European one where, granted, I might have to start this a lot earlier, but in the interest of getting all them on, because there's some really interesting writers from across the pond for sure. And there's plenty of others here based in North America I'd like to have on too at some point. So that's one thing about Substack too. I have unlimited amount of potential guests now.
Nice.
So
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
because normally it's either I find other YouTubers and have them on, and one who I might have found on through Instagram, and one who's now on. I don't know if anyone follows Molly Oblivion. She's just new to Substack, but she's someone that's
Write
been
her
on
down.
my show quite a few times. But yeah, so it's good. It's funny because I followed someone to Substack, and now I've brung someone over to Substack. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I'll give
That's
you a good YouTuber, especially for those of you who are interested in 70s and 80s horror and maybe just getting into it. Terrorific Lady.
Okay.
If you haven't heard her, she does
Yeah.
like these horror schools, and she goes into things like the real deep dives into things like Halloween, and then she'll bring
Cool.
out a whole bunch of other fun stuff. I love watching her videos, and I've been begging her half to death to come on the Midnight Circuit just one time. But
That's awesome.
yeah, y'all, that's one recommendation I would give everybody
Yeah,
on YouTube.
I'm gonna
She's
check
only
her
on
out.
YouTube?
Mm-hmm.
She's not on Substack?
Not on Substack,
Okay.
but she's on YouTube.
Okay.
Okay.
Cool.
Excellent.
Very cool.
Well, everyone, thanks for watching, and please like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time on Horror Hangouts.
Good night, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.